It is 7 o'clock and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everybody make sure their microphones are on. Little green light in front of them. Okay, roll call of PC members. David will not be here. He couldn't make his flight back in time, so.
Bratton, here. Eltonen, here. Robel,
Here.
Merchant, here. Milnick,
Here.
DeYoung.
Here. Anybody like to set or adjust the meeting agenda as printed?
I don't know if we need to add under unfinished business 7D that I'll be giving a report as well as making a motion.
Okay, you can add a report under D2. Aye.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
Under reports, Vice Chair Stratton is listed there.
Apparently, I'm giving my report under the ROS portion,
And subject,
the ROWG. Is that right, Keith?
Okay, any other changes? All right, so everybody accept the changes, adding to the ROS under unfinished business, the report from Reed Stratton on the ROS committee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
did we get a
Here.
first and second?
Oh,
I
make the
move.
motion.
Okay, I'll second.
Stratton?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have a declaration of conflict of interest pertaining to the agenda items today?
Now we need the actual vote, since we have a first and second.
Oh, okay, I thought we did that already, but I'll do it again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any declaration of conflict of interest? Today's agenda?
Possibly the wineries and tasting rooms ordinance, because I'm in the ag district and we haven't set any parameters yet, so if I could be have something, but, I don't know. I'm just saying there, I could be, so.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to the public comment section. I'm going to first respond to a couple of comments that were made in the last public comments of August 14th of 2005. One was somebody was concerned about the wineries with no protection for the people who may be affected and regarding public health and safety. Talking to wineries ordinance that we are looking at. I just want to be clear that I brought this wineries forward to work on as us for a group. And there's great consideration being given to the health and safety of all. The fire chief is included in this ordinance package that we're working on. And second of all, there was mention of seven pending lawsuits that the township has put against STRs here in our township. And I just want to state that that is incorrect. There were 0 lawsuits pending at the time as far as I'm aware now, also, for STRs in Whitewater Township. All right, in-house. Any person shall be permitted to address the meeting of the PC. Public comments shall be directed. Public comments shall be carried out in accordance with the following rules and procedures. Comments shall be directed to the PC with questions directed at the chair. Any person wishing to address the PC shall speak from the lectern. Persons may address the PC on matters that are relevant to the township planning and zoning issues. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once in the same matter, excluding the time needed to answer a PC member's question. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. To avoid unscheduled debates, the PC generally will not comment or respond to public comment other than to ask a question. Silence or non-response from the PC should not be interpreted as disinterest. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to come on up, sir? Please state your name and address and sign the paper there.
Thank you to the Planning Commission members for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is John Fitzgerald. I'm the owner of 8649 Church Street, Williamsburg, which is right around the corner from this township office. I'm speaking tonight in support of Zoning Ordinance Amendment 2025-3, and more generally in support of responsible short-term rental regulations. I purchased the house at 8649 Church Street in an online auction 9 years ago, after it had sat vacant for many years and had fallen into foreclosure. No one else wanted to touch it. In fact, it was offered for sale. Many people looked at it. Most people thought it was a tear down. It had a foot of water in the basement, had no electricity, heat, or water, and had been stripped of all the appliances, the wood stove, and the copper plumbing. But I fell in love with the house, which was originally built in the 1880s and served as the parsonage for the church until World War II. I spent 2 years coming up on weekends and remodeling the interior while living downstate in the Detroit area. It was a true labor of love. I also spent tens of thousands of dollars on exterior improvements, including new siding, roofing, a deck, concrete patio, hot tub, fire pit, and many other upgrades. When I initially bought the house 9 years ago, one of the first things I did was to visit this very township office. I asked the person here, who I believe was the township supervisor at the time, not sure, I don't have a name, if there were any regulations regarding short-term rentals in Whitewater Township. He actually laughed at me and said, in effect, son, this isn't Traverse City. We don't have any restrictions on short-term rentals. 9 years later, Whitewater Township is some of the most restrictive, and in my mind, short-sighted policies on short-term rentals in the entire Traverse City region. For the past 3 years, I've been operating what I call the Church Street Cottage as a rental property, primarily for visitors to the horse show in the summer. Most of my rentals are a week or longer, including 2 and 3 week rentals for the horse show. If I'm forced, by the way, I have the cease and desist order from the township's law firm. If I'm forced to do 30-day plus rentals only, which are the only allowable rentals under the current regulations, my entire investment in this property, this historic property, becomes untenable. You see, this property represents the entirety of my retirement income. I will have to sell it and invest my retirement assets elsewhere. When I say that short-term rental restrictions are short-sighted, I say that not only as an investor. The current restrictions on short-term rentals depress housing values, which affects all Whitewater Township residents, not just the owners of rental units like myself. In summary, I'm asking the Planning Commission to adopt the zoning ordinance amendment as written and allow responsible short-term rentals to resume. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Come on up, ma'am. Oh.
Good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. I stand before you. I adamantly oppose short-term rentals, number 20.
Can we have your name?
My name is Julie Zenas. I'm sorry. I wrote it down there, 9373 Skagamon Point Road. I stand before you tonight adamantly opposing short-term rentals, especially Amendment 2025-3. It's not ready due to several shortcomings. Key areas are including enforcement, registration, permitting, community impact. These areas lack clarity, strength, accountability needed to responsibly manage STRs and protect residents. The ROS work group, which I suspect might be changing its name tonight, was formed specifically to evaluate impacts and regulatory needs surrounding short-term rentals. This work is ongoing and is premature to move forward with ordinance changes before we have completed their research and present a thorough, data-driven recommendation. This ordinance takes a one-size-fits-all approach and would allow short-term rentals in R1 zones, which are not appropriate for short-term rentals. These areas have condensed populations and closely spaced homes, making them especially vulnerable to noise, traffic, and disruptions from short-term guests who have no long-term investment in the neighborhood. Fines must match the impact. When somebody can make $866 a night, $75,000 roughly for 90 days, which is happening, during the summer months, warnings and one-year probations won't stop them. Without meaningful financial consequences, the amended ordinance doesn't discourage repeat violations or protect the community. Requiring registration every 5 years is too infrequent and to catch issues early, and the $100 fee won't come close to covering the cost of oversight. It's even unclear whether thorough research has been completed or publicly shared regarding the potential negative impacts of short-term rentals on lake health and public safety. These are important issues for our community, and they deserve careful study before any ordinance is finalized. For these 5 reasons: lack of clarity, accountability, premature timing, inappropriate zoning, and insufficient enforcement, I respectfully urge the Planning Commission to recommend not approving or moving the proposed short-term rental amendment. More work is needed to develop a strong, well-informed ordinance that truly serves and protects our community. Thank you.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm Marcia Monks. I live at 422 Island View Drive.
You could just sign the paper there for us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Forgive me, I will probably read most of this. Thank you for allowing me to express my views concerning the short-term rental amendment. At past meetings, I've heard many supporters of this amendment spell out the economic benefits to them and local businesses. I've not heard any plausible benefit for the residents adjacent to or nearby, and I can think of none. I live in an R1 zoned neighborhood. Broadly speaking, R1 is a single-family district designed to protect and preserve a quiet, low-density residential area. I think most people choose to live in such zones so they can enjoy a peaceful and quiet lifestyle. This amendment would allow short-term rentals in all areas of our township, including the R1 zoned areas. It lacks meaningful consequences for any noncompliance and has the potential to alter forever the very nature of Whitewater Township. I know my neighbors, and we are a close and caring community in a very tranquil spot. I would hate to see that threatened with an influx of short-term tenants. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else? Coming up, sir.
My name is Mickey Dean, 4020 Farrell Road. Sir, if I could, do you have action against you right now for short-term rentals?
So I was sent a cease and desist by the law firm for the township, which I responded to within the 14 days that I was allotted. I have not heard, I requested clarification from them that 30 days and more is fine, which is my plan for next summer if the current regulations are in place. But obviously I would like to see that change so I can go back to renting for less than 30 days at a time.
Thank you. So I'd like basically.
Hang on a second, sir.
Rephrase the question. I didn't see it disappear. Rephrase the question that you answered at the first part of the meeting, which was a response to, are there any lawsuits for short-term rentals? Can you put together are there any enforcement actions against short-term rental folks? Obviously, there's at least one. So to say that there are zero lawsuits, okay, but there are enforcement action, and I'd like to know how many there are. I'll be at the next meeting to pick up the answer to that. That'd be great. The second question I have is with regard to the 9-year ago answer from the township supervisor that said, yeah, we don't have any regulations. I would ask the PC, has our zoning ordinance changed with regard to rentals, short-term, long, or any others, in that 9 years? So I know the answer to that question, but I'd like it publicly stated by the PC. There has been no change in 9 years from when a gentleman comes in and gets an answer from the township offices that say, yeah, we don't have any regulations, and now we have multiple enforcement actions against short-term renters. There have been no changes in our ordinance in that 9 years. So I'd like that publicly stated at the next meeting as well. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Mike Jacobson, 7031 Skimog Point Road. When there is a public hearing that you know there's going to be a large crowd at, I think it is irresponsible to try to address 2 public hearings in the same meeting. Everyone on this commission and who is paying attention to this issue knew that there would be a lot of people wanting to be heard on the short-term rental issue. Therefore, it was safe to assume that the hearing would go on for a long time. It was irresponsible to have the second public hearing on the same night. I know that there were people there who wanted to speak about the raising of fees for public submission. I can only speak for myself, but I know that many people I talked to about this issue made comments to me of a similar viewpoint as mine. Because you tried to cram too much in one night, most of the people on the second issue didn't get the opportunity to voice their opinion. Not all the people have the same schedule as you. Some had to be to work early. Others have children at home and they need to get back to them. There is no reason to think that the second hearing couldn't have been held in our own township hall at a later date. Congratulations, you effectively silenced those people. That's not your job. Your job is to listen to the whole community before making decisions like this. I also will repeat myself in saying that I think you have handled this whole short-term rental issue incorrectly. No one in their right mind would submit an ordinance or an amendment to an ordinance and not expect that it would be tweaked. That's your job. I've never seen an issue come before the planning commission, and I was on a planning commission for close to a decade, to have the commission send it straight to public hearing with no deliberation on it from themselves. That's where the tweaking takes place. That submission was meant to be a starting point to get the ball rolling. Again, I'll remind you that the master plan supports that a short-term rental ordinance is in order. I will also state that I'm against the board and or the PC having meetings during working hours when people with jobs can't attend. This is a form of suppressing the public's ability to express itself. And I clearly support short-term rentals. And I want to know why we're doing this signing in sheet when you are writing our stuff down. I've never seen this done before either. I would like to know an answer as to why all of a sudden this is happening.
I will answer that for you right now. The recording secretary needs that so she can make sure your name gets put on the public comments correctly.
The list is right there. She's making, Renee is
She's
making
the
a list right
recording
there.
secretary.
Seems redundant. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Kelly Jo Bowman. I live at 5149 Benton Road. I've been to quite a few meetings with the board and have spoken up in favor of short-term rentals. Every meeting that I've been on Zoom, every meeting that I've been able to attend, we are hearing the same things from both sides. The ordinance that was submitted, I think, is a great start for us to all find some sort of a compromise, because clearly he is not the only gentleman that has invested tens of thousands of dollars into a home to get rid of blight, to keep things looking nice in our neighborhoods, and supporting all of our local contractors, our local lumber, plumbers, painters, electricians. There's a lot of funds going right back into the community. I do know for a fact that there are some properties in the area that have been purchased by farms that attend the horse show from across the country, mostly Florida, I think Pennsylvania, and Texas. These homes are only occupied by these groups for 3 months out of the year. So the rest of the time, they don't live here, they don't contribute to our community. And if we're forced to sell our homes, that's what's gonna happen. You'll start to lose more of the community. I have tried to do long-term rentals at my house. They have destroyed things, threw paint all over the walls, had horrible things done to the carpet, started accumulating junk and garbage into the yard, which was completely unacceptable. Those things are really hard to manage. I already have neighbors in this community on Vinton Road alone that have, I think, 7 broken down cars, 3 broken down campers in the backyards. There's so much blight going on already for the people who are long-term residents of Whitewater Township. I'm a responsible renter. I keep an eye on my people. I do introductions. Like the other gentleman, most of my renters are from 1 to 6 weeks at a time for horse shows. They're not all gonna be over 30 days. That community brings so much revenue to Grand Traverse County. I mean, it's astounding. They come and they have grooms, they have the riders, they have the owners. They're not gonna stick 4 grooms in a 2-bed hotel room. But it's not right, and they don't wanna do that. Having these rentals available for them, it's crucial for us to be able to support them as much as that event supports the community. I could go on, but I think all of the points have been made. I think it's really sad that we can't come to a compromise earlier than this, based on 4 or 5 people who have bad neighbors. I can empathize with that. I don't have neighbors that are doing short-term rentals, but they drive me nuts all the time. But I can understand if you're on the lake and there's people being super disrespectful. I'm not that renter. I'm not that owner. And I have a great relationship with my community, with my neighbors. Just want to say my support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michelle Loeffler-Roraff.
Could you just fill that out for us, please? Thank you.
I am a resident here in Whitewater Township. And I am in favor of a short-term rental ordinance that will support the entire community. I have submitted over 26 letters that I'm hoping that have been read. I've emailed them to everyone here. I am speaking on their behalf, their voice. They entrusted me with their emails, and I'm hoping that you all have had time to read them and to go over them and to consider where they are coming from. I know that many of these individuals rely on the income from short-term rentals and have never received a complaint in many years. Therefore, it seems irresponsible to make short-term rentals not an option for those who are responsible. Like many of the short-term rental hosts are. They care for their community and they care for their guests that come to visit. I think overall, we all want to do what is best for our community. And I think that if we work as a team to follow proper policies, procedures, rules, take the time to listen, to learn, then to make a decision would be in everyone's best interest. And not silence those who were unable to attend the meetings or those who have submitted emails that have not been read. I hope they've been read privately by you, if not here at a public hearing. And finally, I think that it is in the best interest of all of the many wonderful hosts that we have here in our community that have never received a complaint, that are using that money to put back into the community, that are using that money in order to maintain their home, using that money to continue to live in that home and not be required to sell and be forced out of the community that they love. So I thank you for your time, and I hope that we can all come to an agreement that is in the best interest of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hi, Karen Boyd, Karinboyd, 6303 Baggs Road. I'm not for or against short-term rental, but what I am for is having the right to use my property the way it was intended. I think that there can be a compromise with people being respectful. There's got to be rules, regulations put in place. But you can't, how can you tell somebody that they can't rent out their home if it helps them financially, if it helps them maintain their livelihood? Would I ever rent out my home? Probably not. But it's not my place to tell somebody else what they can or can't do with their property. There's got to be a compromise where everybody can meet in the middle and make it work. I also want to address the fact that we don't have Zoom commenting. It's something that needs to change. Everybody in this township helped pay for the system. We should all be able to take advantage of it. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Ryan, 8081 Hawley Road. So I've been a resident here for 12 years. It's my first home. I was really excited to get it. Got my first job out of college, looked around for quite a while, found a home out here. It's a great area. So I'm a local from the area, came back after college. And, I really fell in love with the area. It was close to town, but got that countryside kind of appeal. Since I've moved in, I've done a lot to the home, fully remodeled. The home needed a lot of work. Okay, so fully remodeled it, a lot of landscaping, put new roofs on it, new metal roofs. Currently putting an addition on the home. So I have a 10-month-old baby girl back at home. Knowing us, we'll probably have another one coming soon. So we need more space, right? I'm currently on paternity leave, so that's kind of offered the ability for me to work on the property more. So apologies for the concrete all over my clothes because I just left the property. Putting an addition on it with help of Deb. She really helped out with the building permit. And I just want to say, yeah, I'm pro SDRs, responsible SDRs. So before I knew it was illegal, I'd been doing it a little bit here and there. And I'm very close with both my neighbors. We exchange produce. Get along really well. We talk. We have each other's cell phone numbers. Never once have I had any issues. There's never. I would be the first to want to know about that and do something about it, right? So everybody wants what's best for the community. And, I think it's interesting here tonight. I mean, I didn't actually keep tabs, but it was at least 2-1, I think, so far in favor of STRs. So 2-1, that's, 66%. We just pledged allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And I'm pretty sure what we're really pledging allegiance to there is the Constitution, right? So quick quiz question. Does anybody recall what percentage it takes to ratify the Constitution? 2/3? I think I heard that. So it's 2/3. So the last survey, so we're at least that here tonight, okay? So in the survey that I saw, it was actually close to 70%. I was like, that's a really big margin. And apparently the framers of the Constitution thought that was a sufficiently big margin, right? To follow the will of the people. Now, it's not like, okay, do whatever you want, go crazy. And, obviously there needs to be regulations, but in my experience, the proposals put forth, for example, I think it's a really good starting point, see where we end up. If there's any problems, I don't think anybody would want that. And I think we could find a good solution. Thank you.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Or anyone else?
Good evening, Connie Highmore, 6761 Baggs Road. I would just like to also ask that Zoom public comment come back. I'm not always up here in the Williamsburg area. Our main home is downstate. And come winter, I won't be able to be up here. 300 miles it takes me to get here to speak at a meeting. So Zoom public comment is real important to me. So I'd like to bring that back. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Still working on them cards. Heidi Valmuth, 8388 Winnie Lane. We got to quit having these meetings, you guys. You're killing me, especially if I got to work or play golf. I can't investigate and have a hobby too. So a short-term rental is a commercial business. As a retired responder, be careful what you wish for. Because when we would inspect businesses, either for fire or we'd get a phone call, we'd find bedrooms with no egresses. People were putting people in rooms with only one way out. There were fines for that. I think you got to look at save a life. If somebody's renting out something, have some regulations, have some rules, save a life. We're hiring more fire personnel to save a life. We've increased our response times to save a life. You need to save a life because the taxpayers paid for that, and you're muting their voice. And you guys should be better than that. You should want to hear from every person in the community, backwards, forwards, and upside down. Because remember, you work for them. They don't work for you. Although sometimes I feel like it. It's a two-way communication. It's a service paid by the taxpayers. Give it a thought. Be different than the board. Take a step. Work for the people. I moved here for the beautiful blue waters. Otherwise, I would have moved to Wisconsin. 10% in 2013 of your beautiful waters already were absorbing 10% of septic failure. Forget about the stuff that comes off boats, because we still don't have boat washes. Forget the stuff people are throwing in the water. Are they washing anything? Who knows? Right now, 25% of our state's approximately 1.3 million septic systems are failing in some way. When I had a house on the river and there was 5 of us in it for 2.5 days, we were full. Later on down the road, we were able to get a different system so that we didn't have to have septic. You can do all kinds of things, but it's expensive. We need some rules, regulations. Otherwise, everybody else that comes to live here 50 years from now won't see blue water, will they?
Thank you. Anybody else?
Kim Mangus, 5101 Brown Bear. I want to run through a couple things real quick. The first time I mentioned it, I misspoke. There are not 7 pending lawsuits, but there are 7 properties per last month's ZA report that have started the process that results in a lawsuit. So I've tried, ever since, I've tried to be very, very clear. There are 7 in the pipeline. That is a fact. Reen, I attended last night's work group. I know none of you recognize me from that because I was the only one there. Reen, you made a comment that you don't want people to feel like they can't speak up and that you don't want them to feel targeted. You need to know there are folks that spoke up that have received letters from the township attorney based on nothing new, who are not even renting since your public hearing. People are being targeted, and it's not unreasonable that they're feeling scared to say anything. That needs to stop. Here at the PC level, you can't do that, but the board can and should. I happen to be one of those people that I don't have a short-term rental, but I have a short-term rental next door. I support it. I don't have a problem with it. The gentleman here that spoke up about his property, I'm one of the people that looked at that property, and when I said the blight in my community that's gotten better in my immediate neighborhood, that's one of them. And we agree. we determined it was a tear down, as gorgeous as it is, and you've done a great job. We have a beautiful community here, and so much can be solved with what is often a lot of us referred to as parking lot meetings. You can get more done in a parking lot on your way to your car because we talk, we discuss. Even after last night's meeting, we were able to clear up some things. There was just some things that were completely off. Oh, you're looking in the wrong place. No, we didn't have zoning in 1940. Didn't exist. When you have as many planning commissioners in the audience as you do at the table, which you do tonight, you have as many former planning commissioners out here as up here. Something's getting lost in the process. I agree with the gal that said that the ordinance isn't ready. Whoever guided you in this process, it got lost. Suggestion comes in, planning commission deliberates, works on, fine tunes, clarifies, then submits to public hearing. This never should have gone to a public hearing. I won't lay blame, but it was not a recipe for success. I want you to realize that a lot of the folks out here that are supporting short-term rentals, we make a living in this community. Ask yourself at the table, how many of you made the money that you bought your house with in this community? I know of one. That's not easy.
Silence the cell phones, please.
That's
It's
the
the
timer.
timer.
That's our, yeah.
A 3-minute timer.
It's a timer. And I will wrap it up. Timer or no timer. In conclusion, there were over 136 letters that came in for the public hearing the other night. If you have not read all 136 letters, you should not be even discussing this item this evening. You had it right, Keith, when you said that a week is not enough to process that information. It really isn't. If you do determine that you're going to take a vote tonight, I would encourage you to forward it to the board with a note. I don't see anything that you have an option to say anything other than recommend or not recommend, but you can send them a note, hey, we're not done with this, we need another shot at it. And I would encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll sign that. Hi, I'm Greg Morris from Skigmog Point Road. 20 minutes before this, I wasn't even coming. Somebody come to my house and reminded me of it. But I think it's pretty simple. Part of it's property rights. Seems like it gets closer all the time to just be quiet and pay your high taxes. You know, put some good rules in, a 3-strike rule, whatever. Get rid of the bad apples and move on with it. I don't think I can say any more about it. So that's it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Renee, would you mind not starting that until I sign this? Just 'cause
I'm waiting until you, after you state your name.
Thank you. I didn't know. Thank you so
Yep.
much. I just don't want to get interrupted if I don't have. Oh. I'm so used to doing a signature, you know? What's that? What's that? Thank you. Okay. All right. All right. I wrote something. I want to preface this by saying
Give us your name.
Eric Johnson. Sorry, Island Lake. I want to preface this by saying I really hate this. I hate conflict. I really like my neighbors on Island Lake, but I have an observation. I think it's important, so I'm going to say it. Hello. This has been an interesting process to participate in. My approach is to go into situations like this with the assumption that we're all aligned in more than we think. I believe that if each of us looked not only to our own interests, but also to the interests of each other, the objectives of everyone involved would intersect at a responsible regulation of short-term rentals. What I did not anticipate is the degree to which the privilege of an incumbent group would dictate the terms of this conversation. It's not the privilege that surprises me. What has been surprising is the degree to which it feels like government is operating in defense of that privilege. I still believe that primary goals of the majority of both sides can be achieved with responsible regulation of short-term rentals. Clearly, this would be the most equitable solution to serve the township. But without this middle ground, the current situation lends itself to a format where government can be a tool which is leveraged by those with special privilege to push out anyone who does not share their status. They are empowered to do this without accountability, regardless of validity of any claims. It's a weapon of discrimination. What we have witnessed is an evident manifestation of this reality. Instead of talking about what it means to be a responsible citizen, or a good neighbor, or a taxpayer, or a person committed to investing their time and energy in the community, we have been compelled to discuss talking the enforcement of the extreme, aided by unfounded fear-mongering by a group intent on preserving a privileged status, even when it is evident that this creates a burden for their neighbors. To be clear, this has not been a conversation of how to work together as a community, which is what I anticipated when I got involved. I did not know that this was what I was stepping into. But it's been a fight of the haves versus the have-nots. And this is not a new fight. We've always been divided by a clear distinction between those of us who use our position and our resources to uplift the community around us, and those intent on fortifying a position which discriminates against those outside of their lived experience. That's evident with this. This is inarguable. Clearly appealing to our collective humanity is not a big motivator, though. So my concern is what happens now that this has been demonstrated. Last meeting, Carl, and I'm not calling you out, I just noticed this, Carl, you vocalized appreciation for a call-in from a member of Alden Township who warned that regulation would lead to complexity because it needed to be enforced. And that's a fair point. But there's a more transparent to say what he said. It's easier to discriminate, carte blanche, than to give equal opportunity to all members of society, because doing so requires discernment, which requires work. It requires that we take the time to evaluate people based on the content of their character, and in this case, the evidence that they're committed to using their own privilege, however lesser, to contribute back to society through respectful behavior. Those that don't respect rules intended to safeguard all of us should of course have their opportunity removed, which yes, will require some action on the part of the township. But how is that any different than the current situation that has been expressed here, right? There's letters going out, legal money being paid by taxpayers. The current process is so open-ended that it gives this group power to make anyone guilty before proven innocent. All someone needs to do is make an accusation, regardless of whether it's founded or unfounded, and the township is predisposed to accept this as a fact and pursue legal action against the accused. I've received 2 letters. The first one says that I got a warning, which I did not get. I didn't even know what they were talking about. My place hasn't even been listed for an entire summer. The second letter that I got said that the zoning administrator gave me a business card. It also said that I violated noise ordinances multiple times. Who violated them? Renters? My family's been there. All you have to do is just lob things over the fence and you're going to break windows. And all I can do is sit here and try to respond. And taxpayers are going to have to pay for it too. There's got to be a better way. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make a clarification. He was referencing a gentleman from Acme, not
No,
Alden.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Lynn DeLong. I live at 722 Island View Drive. Let's put aside for a minute and start thinking about whether we are from what we are against SCRs and address the proposal that is this amendment. This amendment would basically allow SCRs in every district in Whitewater. SCRs are commercial. The Michigan Courts of Appeals have held, and I quote, "The act of renting property in another of a short-term use is a commercial use, even if the activity is residential in nature," unquote. Therefore, not only are houses, but motels, apartments, hotels, condos, townhouses could operate as SCRs in every district, including residential in Whitewater Township. Let's take a look at the rules and regulations. It says that you must register and pay a small fee to the township known so they know who is operating SCRs and control the activity. What it doesn't say is what if they don't register. There currently are many SCRs operating within Whitewater in violation of the current zoning regulation. Why would they want it to be controlled? They know. Provisions in this amendment to ensure compliance, even though these registrations and amendments state the township may pursue legal action, not will or shall. Permits may be invoked, but not will or shall. This is not a solution to operating violations of the zoning amendment. Then let's look at the army of new township employees that would be required to check and ensure that these general operating standards are in compliance. Checking septic tank capacities, checking bedrooms for code egress windows, fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and present in our working order and above compliance with the health department regulations. That emergency information is available and updated. There are adequate parking, trash, and cycle receptacles, proper interior lighting, and proper signage. All these, according to this amendment, is the responsibility of the zoning administrator. Then what happens to the job of the zoning administrator? Perhaps the administrator could handle a few limited, but this amendment does not place a limit on the total number of SCRs. And what about all the local contact people, their phone numbers, their backups, and when they decide not to answer the phone or handle other business? These contact persons are also provided authority to take corrective action, but what action? The amendment is also deficient in that it does not require any signed contract which the owner has the ability to take corrective action, if necessary, against the renters and spell the terms and conditions of the SCR. Under this decision, you will render lasting consequences if you don't get it right. Take the time, evaluate the full ramifications of the proposed amendment without concern to the pros and cons of SCRs in general and whether compliance with Section 21-5 standards of review for amendment, then make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to thank you all. I can't imagine the burden this job is sometimes for little thanks, but I really appreciate what you're trying to do. And what kind of inspired me to stand up was I was thinking about some of the things that Eric said and others, and it makes it sound like somehow they're being victimized. When the reality is we're talking about the rule of law.
I'm sorry, did we get your name, sir?
Oh yeah, it's Tom Washburn, 536 Island View Drive. I'm sorry. When you sign in like that, it kind of bounces past your brain. But I don't like the characterization of the folks who are running SDRs as somehow being victims in this, because we operate under the rule of law. The zoning ordinances are clear. The court record in Michigan is clear. Most of the people who have stood up admit that what they're doing isn't permissive. Some people complain that, well, they were given bad advice. I'm pretty sure that the court precedence on that is you have to do your own research, and you can't, the one person sitting in the township hall to goof something up isn't going to change Michigan law. And so there's procedures for if you want to change zoning and you want to change something, which is sort of what this ordinance is doing. But you can't complain
that the county or the township here is enforcing what's on the books. I mean, there's a whole bunch of us out there who bought our property. As I said last time, we understood it was residential. We appreciate that. Shoot, the best use of that property for me is probably putting a tavern on that lake where you could drive in boats and all that kind of stuff. That would be totally impermissible by the zoning, but I'd make a ton of money. But I can't complain if you all turned to me and said, can't do it, and we're going to enforce our zoning ordinance against you. So I don't want to, you can get 2/3 of a room like this because you're goosing people that are making a lot of money. But, there's a lot of people out there that aren't making money at short-term rentals who would be upset to have one within 50 feet of their house. And so I think you have to consider, when you're in a position like this, you represent I don't know how many, 3,000 people in township? I don't even know. But, you can't go off what is a loud minority of people in a meeting like that. And so I'd encourage you to take your time and do it right. But we got to follow the rule of law. And I commend the township for enforcing what's there. Because if they aren't now, when we do have an STR ordinance, do they want it not to be enforced then? I mean, so that's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Randy Steelman, 7315 Crisp Road. I just coming up here again, everybody knows that I'm pro STR, I'm pro this ordinance. I do agree that, and I know I was around the people that were making it and whatnot. It was intended to give you building blocks. She did tons of research. She, the people, she called people have emails and everybody contributed to this thing. And there's a lot of people, and they looked at other towns' ordinances and things like that to come up with this thing that's here. And of course, we know it's not perfect, and we knew that going in, but we were hoping that it would give a good framework for what is to come. And I hope that that's what you guys do is, get some more framework, work off of that framework, use it. There's a lot of good stuff in there. It's probably got 90% of the things you need in there. And then you need another 10% to tweak it to make, the extremes either which way work. That's important. This letter stuff that's going on right now, I don't agree with that they should be sending these out to people. We're paying for these lawyers. Every time he sends a letter, I bet it's $100. I don't know what it really costs, but it's ridiculous. And so we should stop this. It is quieting people. When we know this is an issue that our people want, we need to work on it. We shouldn't be scaring them and freaking them out and wasting taxpayer money on something that, in a year or two, this is going to be sorted out and they'll know what they're supposed to be doing. We're wasting money needlessly on lawyers. These STRs have been going on for decades. We've never needed regulation for them. And there's been hardly any, if you look back historically, there's almost no complaints. I mean, it's very tiny. The people are all worried about these are going to wreck our lives and whatnot. It's been going on forever, and it's not wrecking people, and it never was. And so the opposition is worried. 90% of these people are worried about what could happen, and we all know that 90% of worrying never even happens. So there's a lot of worry going on that's not important. Other than that, thanks for the people that are standing up, whether they're for or against. We appreciate that. Thank you guys for listening and whatnot. And the hearing the other night was really great. I felt that everybody, we got to hear some people talking, and that's what this township needs the most. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Anybody else? I don't see any movements.
Anybody on Zoom? No.
What's that?
On Zoom.
I don't think we don't. No, that's only public hearing.
Okay.
All right. If there's none other, I will close the public comments. There is no public hearing today. There's no meetings. There's no approval of minutes because the last meeting had been canceled due to capacity. Under correspondence, I had got an email from Rachel, and I told her I was going to respond to it this weekend, and forgetting that it was Memorial Day weekend, I did not get a chance to. So I let her know that I would. What's that? Labor Day. Oh, sorry. You're right. Labor Day. It felt like Memorial Day. So I told her I would respond here. I do want to make a comment that this decision that we're making is not necessarily against STRs. What we have here is an application for an amendment to our ordinance that is for STRs. So whether we vote to move this forward or we don't vote to move this forward, we are not saying, of course, if we vote to move this forward, we're saying that this ordinance should be moved forward. But if we don't vote to move this forward, we're not saying we don't believe that there is a possibility to have STRs in some form or fashion, but we just don't know enough about it yet to make sure everybody's voices are heard on it. So I just want to be clear, we're not making a decision either way on that unless we push this forward. And I'll explain this here about why we've done and what we've done it, why we've done it. So there was an application submitted by Mrs. Steelman, filed for application for amendment on SDRs on the Whitewater zoning ordinance as per Article 21. What I'm going to read to you is 21.03, the procedures outline. So this is what we follow when we receive an application. And this is the order that we follow it. First of all, an application comes in, which we received Mrs. Steelman's on April 2025, and it was distributed to the Whitewater Board and PC member. Next is the public hearing. A public hearing shall be held for all proposed amendments in accordance with procedures set forth by the Michigan Enabling Act, PA 110 of 2006, as amended and summarized in writing filed with the clerk and with applicable fees paid. The hearing was held on August 21st, 2025. We tried to hold it August 6th, but we had capacity issues here, so we moved it on. As I stated in the meeting, at that time, that there were so many letters that there was no way we could read them all aloud and still allow for enough people to voice their concerns. We wanted to make sure that nobody left that hall that didn't have an opportunity to say what was on their heart. Now, if, let's see. Then next is C, the Planning Commission considers a proposal an amendment. Planning Commission shall review the proposed amendment together with any reports, recommendations from staff, consultants, other reviewing agencies, and any public comments. The Planning Commission shall identify and evaluate all factors relevant to the petition, including the appropriate criteria listed in this section, and shall report its findings and recommendations to the Township Board. The Planning Commission will deliberate on all the information that has been presented, including all email responses and responses at the hearing. Last and not least is the Township Board action, which they will decide what they feel on that. So I just wanted to be clear that the reason we did what we did and what order we did it in is because we are to follow our own zoning ordinances. And our zoning ordinance, Article 21, clearly states how this procedure follows. The Planning Commission is only deliberating on the application itself, not any added comments or ideas. We're not here to change the applicant's application. We're here to decide whether or not that application was forward or not. I know that some comments were made about personal criticism. Nothing that this board here does at the planning commission level is personal. Everything we do here is we do with our ordinances or the information that we get and the decisions we have to make. We're not making just personal decisions here. You may hear views from commissioners that have determined through that process it's not personal. It's decisions that are made through the process of deliberation. What is said in public comment, as you know, is not a view of the Planning Commission. So to make comments about things that were said in public comment, it's not our view and it's not anything that this board has put forward. There was the question about the unannounced resolution, a Good Friday special meeting. That item pertains to the Township Board, so you should direct that directly with the Township Board. The next step that we will take is to deliberate on this issue, which is the application. We'll deliberate on the application, and then we will make our decision on what we recommend to the Township Board.
Mr. Chairman, can I add something to that?
Yes.
That comment there? I want to address a point in that letter that talked about personal interactions, and Ms. Steelman has pointed out comments about me specifically, publicly and privately. I want to say I stand by my public comments, which there have been very few on this issue in terms of this proposed amendment, and I don't know where some of those comments come from, and if she wants to explain that in a future public comment period, I would welcome a conversation to hear what private conversations she's referring to, because those were initiated by her some months ago, and I'm not exactly clear what we're talking about.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on to reports and presentations. Zoning Administrator.
Hi, I distributed a copy of the zoning report to each of you guys at your table last week. This is a part-time job, and I got a little overwhelmed with all the communications because I wanted to make sure they were all posted on the website. There are 9 additional permits issued during the month of July. We did 2 land divisions last month. I've got 2 more land divisions on my desk right now, and I think I probably have 5 new land use permits as well. We did not have a ZBA appeal during the month of August. There's one coming. There will probably be a ZBA hearing at the end of this month regarding the gentleman who came into the meeting last Thursday. The code enforcement. I was hired to do this job and to enforce the ordinances that are on the books. So that's what I've been tasked to do. I don't know what has happened in the past. I mean, there are letters in the files from my predecessors, and there are a number of properties that have received complaints, not just this year, but in years past. I have certain properties that I get complaints about multiple times in a month. So letters did go out, 5 letters did go out during the month of July August, to 5 properties. 3 of those properties, one, they are going to start living in it. Another one, they are going to start living in it. And another one, they are going to move to 30-day rentals. So the initiation of getting the township attorney involved after reviewing this for April, May, June, and July, I got approval from the supervisor to go ahead and forward these various complaints on and get assistance from the township attorney, which is what I did with her approval. I'm still getting multiple complaints, and we still do not have a lien or a hearing date from the 86th District Court on the misdemeanor citation that was served back on July 3rd after I think I had 48 email complaints on that particular property. So just saying I'm here to do my job There are ordinances on the books, as I've reinforced. In the report I actually gave you today, I'm actually citing all of the ordinances. So zoning ordinance R1, Article 4.01, 4.02, and 4.04 actually defend that short-term renting in Whitewater today is not a permitted or a special use. We have bed and breakfasts that you can get a special use for. We have a commercial campground you can get a special use permit for. So it's not that it's not allowed anywhere, there's just a process for it. Does anyone have any questions for me? I did give you a report. I had a conversation last week, and I'm bringing it up at this point, from the John Deere dealer Hudson at the corner of Moore and M72. They have a concern that they would like to amend their conditions that were placed on them. I believe the original conditions were placed on them back in July of '94. I think it was Classic Equipment at the time. They had those amended back in April of 2006. I do not know who the members of the Planning Commission were at that time. But they were limited to a number of 150 units, which is, every lawnmower, every tractor, whatever that could be outside of an enclosed building. So enforcing that, they are trying to expand, and so they have drafted a letter. I talked to 2 attorneys on Friday morning. They drafted a letter to me, and I forwarded that on to you. Actually, I sent it to Keith, and I'll let him decide if they want to pursue this, if we need to get another amendment going. They are very eager to get this thing moving through the process. They're very concerned that the competition down the road, who has no restrictions on them, placed on them by the Planning Commission in the past, that they look like they're not even in business at Hudson versus Ginnep down the street. So if you'll take a look at the Miller Hahn letter from regarding Hudson, if it's something you could actually review tonight, that would be awesome. They'd be thrilled. Otherwise, they will be wanting to pursue an amendment on getting that one item changed from 150 units to have that lifted so that they could reasonably compete in the marketplace. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Deb, one last question. You said Ginnep has no restrictions?
I could not find any, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that the fire chief has had some concerns with Ginnep's where too many pallets have been stacked at the back of the building, and he's addressed that. They have not met the landscaping standard along M72. There is a landscaping article in our zoning ordinance that a certain number of trees need to be planted along that corridor, and they have not met that either. I have gone and spoken to them. I do try to go and visit people. I'm not big on sending letters to everybody. I do drop my business cards. I leave dates and times on it. If they blow away or get lost or get tossed in the trash, I don't have a lot of control over that. But I have talked to Ginnep about it, and actually I've talked to Mike Fowler at the vet clinic too, because he's had some trees that need to go, and both Shell stations have removed some dead trees that they're supposed to be replacing. So, but it's part of our zoning ordinance. I'm here to enforce the zoning ordinances in the 24 hours a week that I have. Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, I have nothing. Reen, you have anything you want to share at this point?
No, I'll speak during the unfinished business.
Denise?
I don't have a report, a comment that I could save to the end. I'd rather move through the agenda.
Andy, you have anything from the Township Board?
Just a few things. I'll make sure everyone is aware the Township Board has moved to meeting twice a month now, the second Thursday of the month, as well as the fourth Thursday. The second Thursday is evening, and the fourth one is in the morning. The fourth Thursday is really intended to be more of a business meeting, and whereas the meeting on the second Thursday is more of a general topics, potentially areas where public input's necessary or public hearings or those kind of things. The next regular meeting is September 11th. There's also a couple of special meetings coming up here. One on September 9th, which includes the Skagwalk Point Road assessment That meeting is at 6:30 and it's at the East Bay Township Hall. It's not here. In case there's a large crowd for that, that could accommodate that. Secondly, there's a special meeting on September 30th at 6 o'clock at Mill Creek Academy on the proposed civil infraction ordinance. As you recall, that was an area that we expect a number of comments to come forward, so that's being moved to a larger venue. And then the last meeting of the month is September 25th. A couple other points I would mention is that the town board is interested in feedback on the new Zoom system. I see you have that on the agenda, so we can address that at that point. And then at the last meeting, there was some discussion about the bylaws, not only from the Planning Commission, but the ZBA and the PRACT. And I've not yet seen the details of that, but I'll be forwarding that on to Keith in terms of any potential areas where adjustments are necessary. As you know, the Planning Commission adopts its own bylaws. But if there are areas of conflict, that have been identified, we certainly want to know about them.
Yep. Carl? EA?
Yes, there was no request for variances this month, but we did have a meeting, and it was a training session where we had our attorneys present a overview of the zoning or ZBA's role and the importance of us in documenting our reasons for our decisions properly, and having proper records when these can go to be appealed to the courts, and the courts are going to be looking at how we made our decisions. So we have to be very clear in what we do, and that was their main point, and that was a good presentation. I think copies of that can be made available. I'm not sure. I do have a printed copy.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to deliberation on hearing number 1, CA case 2025-3. And that is the short-term rental zoning ordinance amendment. As the applicant is Rachel Steelman, representing Whitewater residents for responsible short-term rentals. How do we want to start?
What's it you want us to do?
Well, we're going to talk about it.
Oh, I certainly respect Rachel, having dealt with her in the past in Planning Commission. But as I said, I read that. I have given copies of the East Bay zoning ordinance for short-term rentals and the Acme. Also, I have given a copy to if anybody wants to get those. They, of course, are available online. And at our meeting, the representative from Acme Township was very good in telling us what they went through and coming up with their ordinance. And I believe that recording is online. Hopefully you can hear his voice. But my concerns with what has been presented is it's only half of what is required for the ordinance. There is nothing in there about what zones it can be in. There's certainly a big controversy on the residential districts, whether it's even legal. And it is basically, I don't think people in the residential, they don't seem to be compatible with short-term rentals. That all needs to be investigated. Secondly, there's nothing in there about what zones it could be in and how many do we want? Other is the distance. If you look in the ordinance in East Bay Township, they say at least 1,000 feet between them. Right now, you could have essentially a motel on both sides of your house, and not a darn thing you can do about it with the way that's written. So it all needs to be worked out. And I don't know if they should just simply withdraw that and rewrite it, or if we should start with it and go on with it. And certainly the opening statement said 5 years for renewal. It's 1 year in the other townships. And they also have at least 5 steps or more to get somebody out. The other townships are 3 strikes and you're out. You don't just keep having reviews. That definitely needs to change. The rest of it, just needs to be considered what the other townships have done, and not necessarily we should do the same thing, because we're not quite the same. But both of those townships have a heck of a lot of more stuff in there than that proposal. That proposal simply is not complete. And to me, it either, we can work with that, or our RS group needs to start with that, but then look at the other townships, what they've done and why. Contact the officials from them and say what's working and what isn't. That all needs to be done and presented to us before we consider adopting any resolution for short-term rentals. Maybe we need compromise. I know our former township supervisor made some comments about establishing a special district. And I don't know if that's possible, but there should be room for some compromise, but we need to, look at what's really required and go from there.
Sadie, I know I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. You weren't able to be at that meeting. I'm not sure what you've been able to review, so.
I mean, I've looked at all of it. It's overwhelming, but I think that I feel like it's a good starting point. I don't think that the ordinance as it is written, just on basic principles, is even ready to be adopted. I mean, it's not numbered correctly for insertion into our ordinance, which is one thing that has to be considered. It needs a definition as to what an STR even is. I mean, that seems like a good starting point. There's some basic things like that I think it needs to be, as we heard from most people, like it needs to be altered a little bit. But I do think it's a great starting point. Some things are just unclear. And as far as the umbrella for it being the same for everybody with every district, I don't feel like there's enough research in our township to say that yet. I feel for the people on the lakes that are feeling, they're living close quarters. I feel for the people that have great opportunity to rent to the horse festival people. I don't think that there's been enough talk and research done with that either. We have a great opportunity in where we live with the horse shows, and it's not going anywhere. That's going to be the future of our area, whether we like it or not. And so to not design an ordinance that can benefit people that permanently live here doesn't make any sense. And I think that in the future, it's not going to help our township, because they're going to go somewhere else. They'll go Elk Rapids, they'll go Acme, and we'll see these smaller rental units pop up here in surrounding townships because it's not going anywhere. I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar asset that we need to figure out how to capitalize on. But we also just need to, I feel like you can't throw an umbrella ordinance at it. I feel like we have to do some more research on that part of it. So I think that community support is huge and we need to consider that. But I feel like if we're just looking at this application, it does need some altering. And I think it's how it's written. The safety requirements are kind of unclear, and I think we need to involve the fire chief more with that. Even when it says like the local contact person, like what does that mean? What is a local contact person? It has to be more clear, because people are gonna interpret that how they want. Yeah, I think it's a good starting point, but I'm not sure that we're ready to say, yeah, this is the final. I think we need to work on it a little bit more, and I think our committee that we're forming is going to help with that to better provide for everybody in the community.
Green?
I went back to the purpose of our zoning ordinance. And the two that popped out to me with regard to the ordinance that's before us were facilitating the development of adequate systems of fire protection, education, recreation, water supplies, and sanitary facilities, as well as protecting fish and wildlife resources, water quality, scenic and aesthetic qualities, historical and recreational values. And you can interpret these both for and against short-term rentals, but with regard to this ordinance, I feel that it's not currently in keeping with the purpose of the zoning ordinance and the master plan. Waste management in terms of disposal of trash and refuse is referred to, but nothing in the proposed ordinance requires proof of an adequate sanitary system for the maximum occupancy stated. This could affect the waterways in our township. And it also may not protect, I feel currently, the character of all Whitewater Township zoning districts. It refers to properties that are less than 5 acres or properties that are greater than 5 acres, and that's a broad spectrum. This requires further research and public input. It's difficult to enforce, for example, allowing an RV to park on site, quote, provided they are not used for overnight lodging or as additional habitable space by guests of the short-term rental, end quote, is not something that can be enforced by our zoning administrator unless she's going to visit in the middle of the night and check and see if anybody's in there. The ordinance should not include the actual fee, but should refer to the Whitewater Township Planning and Zoning Fee Schedule, and that fee should cover the township costs of processing and enforcement of the ordinance. The length of time a permit is valid requires further study. I agree, 5 years is too long. The maximum occupancy stated is, and I know this is common in other towns, but I really struggle with the logic behind it. The maximum occupancy in this ordinance is greater than the occupancy used by the Grand Traverse Environmental Health Department when determining septic system sizing. Enforcement penalties are lax and as such do not dissuade owners and or renters from hazardous or non-conforming activity and do not protect neighboring properties and people. An efficient Whitewater Township civil infraction ordinance needs to be in place to aid in enforcement of this or any future STR ordinance. I agree that some type of interior and site inspection by the fire marshal should probably be included. Lastly, the written and verbal public testimony, both for and against STRs, requires detailed public input through workshops to be held by the ROWG later this fall and winter. An example is we like to quote data. And so the data that's frequently quoted is 2/3 of Whitewater Township residents who replied to the survey, and the survey response was very low. But 2/3 of those were in support of STRs either with or without regulation. We did receive at least one email that from a woman who originally supported that people should be able to do whatever they choose with their property, but she since has been living next to a short-term rental and has changed her point of view. So she no longer supports them. And so I do think that we need to, whether it's another survey, public workshops, or both, that we need to test the feelings of the public in general about this and also in greater detail. As such, I do not support this ordinance as written until further research and development has been conducted by the Planning Commission and the Resident Outreach Work Group.
Denise?
Oh, I have so.
Okay. Okay.
I'll be brief. I concur with everything that's been said, and I don't want to repeat it. So basically, for me, it's easy to monetize how much money someone can make from a short-term rental by renting their home. But no, I would like someone to try and monetize the value of quiet. You know, the usual complaints about any business is the noise, the traffic, and sometimes the odor and visuals if there's a lot going on. And those are the things that affect people the most. If I can't see my neighbor's house and I can't see their yard, and because of the trees, I can't hear what they're doing. I don't care what they're doing. Just don't care. But if it's affecting me on my property, then that's something that impacts me. What's the value of the loss of my quietness, the beauty of nature around me interrupted by other people's activities that are continuous? You have intermittent, and you know your neighbor's schedules, so you know what's going, when and what things are going to happen. But when you have short-term rentals, things come and go every week, and if it's just what people do when they're on vacation. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Me?
Yes. Because you know the answer. People have talked about these surveys that we've had in the past. Roughly 2/3 of the township is in for short-term rentals in one form or another. We have Keith has results of all of the letters we have just received. Would you care to tell them about that?
I will. Let's finish up with everybody's comments, but we'll bring that up, sure.
Sabrina, I like what you said, not so much the content, but the fact that this brings me to thinking about high school math, in the sense that when you got a test in your algebra class or whatever, you had to show your work. You couldn't just throw out your answer, say, I think this, I think that. You need to show your work. I think that's what the Planning Commission needs to do here. And so when I approach something like this, in my experience, I have gone through and just listed all the bullet points, not unlike what you did, in taking things piece by piece, looking at facts. And I've got a list of material here that I'd like to share as well that are factual, essentially. First of all, zoning amendment case 2025-3 was filed on April 24th by Rachel Steelman, representing residents for responsible STRs. However, I noticed the names or the number of parties associated with this amendment are undisclosed. So we know a little about the fact that Rachel, a little bit beyond the fact that Rachel submitted this amendment. As was discussed at the public hearing, the zoning ordinance lists permitted uses in all zoning districts in Article 4. Rental, and that's the way it's been, I think, since day one with the zoning ordinance. Rental homes on a short-term basis are not listed in Article 4. Similar uses like bed and breakfast and hotels are listed. Whitewater Township, like others, has taken a position that STRs are not therefore permitted. Now I want to go back to the master plan because that's been mentioned a couple times. Final action on the master plan occurred on February 10th, 2025, when the board decided not to assert its authority to approve it. In other words, it left the approval from the Planning Commission be the final word on that. As you know, the master plan addressed short-term rentals in the following way. It said, number one, the often quoted survey about 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. 1/3 do not support short-term rentals, 1/3 support it only with regulation, and 1/3 support it without regulation. These divergent opinions were noted in many places in the master plan, and the goal of updating STR regulation in a manner consistent with public opinion was established, and that was goal 1F. Now, also at that time, the Township Board discussed short-term rentals in February. That was the same meeting that they took the action on the master plan. In other words, letting the Planning Commission's approval stand. That very same meeting, they decided to hold a joint town board PC meeting, which took place in May. There was talk about creating an ROS. There was a memo in the packet that discussed that. There was discussion about how to move forward. And it was decided that the town board and the Planning Commission needed to get on the same page with this and create this resident outreach subcommittee work group to address short-term rentals. Since then, since May, the Planning Commission has defined the structure of the ROS work group, sought citizen volunteers with advertisements, reviewed applications and candidates, selected 5 members on August 14th and 2 alternates, and scheduled the first meeting for yesterday, which was September 2nd. And Noreen's going to talk more about that. So Keith already mentioned the zoning case proposing that the Planning Commission shall review the proposed amendment together with any reports and consultants and public comments. So the Planning Commission held its public hearing, and that was held on August 26th to obtain public comments. The applicant introduced the proposed amendment, and the Planning Commission heard testimony for 4 hours. About 90 people attended in person, and the hearing also included a Zoom option. Comments included statements that were both for and against STRs in Whitewater Township. Many comments for and against were also provided by email. Written comments were scanned and made available on the township website. So as also mentioned here, I see, and others have seen, that the proposed amendment has many technical shortcomings. I have a few to list here. That the amendment doesn't amend Article 4, which is the most basic thing that needs to happen. The proposed regulations are unclear in terms of terms such as registration and permits. References to the capacity of septic systems are meaningless. How could the zoning administrator determine if a septic system capacity is exceeded? Reference parking standards are non-existent. It's unclear who approved the required site plan, whether that's an administrative approval or that goes to the Planning Commission. Provisions concerning enforcement and penalties are misplaced. There's no reference to the existing fire code. There's more. That is a sampling of issues. Beyond the amendment in terms of what it only offers essentially one solution. There's no identification of options to consider. That wasn't really brought forth. Some of those examples, and some of them have been hinted at here or brought out. Should there be a limit on a number of rentals per year, or can the unit be rented as much as possible? Should short-term rentals be limited to owner-occupied units, or can individuals or corporations buy houses in Whitewater Township for the sole purpose of making them an STR? I think that's a huge issue myself.
Could you repeat that one?
Should STRs be limited to owner-occupied units, or can individuals or corporations buy houses in Whitewater Township for the sole purpose of making them an STR? I believe that's occurring in the township now. I don't have proof of it, but I see evidence of that. And that is a concern that I know when I first came in contact with the issues of STR, Sedona, Arizona was grappling with that issue. All of their homes were being purchased by LLCs, corporations from California, New York, and so forth, and they were losing any identity as a community. And they began to, one of the first, I think, larger cities to really get into short-term rental regulation. We're silent on that. So how would a township enforce a requirement that STR guests can't occupy RVs on a property? I think you mentioned that, Reen, in terms of you knock on the doors in the middle of the night or something. And also, how does a $100 fee for a 5-year permit, which equates to $20 a year, cover administrative costs? How should the township manage STRs in terms of inspections and complaints? A big issue is, should the cost of administering an STR ordinance fall all on residents equally, or primarily STR operators? Is the requirement that a local contact person be identified adequate? It seems unlikely that the owner of a unit would authorize a local contact person to take the full range of immediate corrective actions potentially necessary. Should we look at the regulation of STRs by zoning districts? Several people brought that point up, and Boyd brought up the fact that there's a lot of difference between agriculture, recreation, and R1. A lot of the issues seem to come from areas that are zoned R1. And should we look at a regulatory approach such as creating a licensing system such as those used by Traverse City, East Bay, Acme, and others? So I go on to say here that when residents say they support STRs with regulation in the survey, I think it's unlikely that they responded in that way because they wanted to rely on requirements that avoid problems. I think it's likely that they responded that way because they want to rely on requirements that avoid problems with associated STRs. In other words, they're inclined to support short-term rentals, but only with regulatory safeguards and protections and enforcement. The proposed STR amendment provides regulations that STR owners probably like, since an applicant wrote them, but we don't know how that squares with the concerns that residents have. Short-term rentals can take many forms with many different requirements, even just a cursory review of that. So back to the ROS work group. It's been asked to learn more about resident attitudes and support for various regulatory options. This effort was initiated months ago. Specific steps are to be determined, but as Reen mentioned, likely to include a survey, public workshops to produce meaningful and objective data to be a foundation for new regulations. And then finally, the proposed ordinance, in my judgment, does not meet the standards for review for amendments according to 2105. For example, I believe it's misaligned with Goal 1F, which states that the township should address STRs in a manner consistent with public opinion. If I look at actually the page that brings that up in the master plan, it says, in mentioning some form of regulation, the master plan specifically notes such as licensing mechanism, limits on how many short-term rentals, limits on how many can be approved in the community, et cetera. There's been no effort to identify those kind of options here. So in my mind, those are factual things. And I want to point out one other thing here. I think there's a compelling argument to reject the proposed zoning amendment, let the outreach work do its job for our residents, and provide facts about the full range of regulatory options, and then let the PC draft a new ordinance. It should also be clear in my mind that rejecting the proposed amendment is not a vote to continue prohibiting short-term rentals in Whitewater Township. It's a vote to address this issue properly, thoughtfully, and consistently with the master plan. In the introductory presentation, the applicant suggested that we adopt the proposed amendment soon, evaluate its effectiveness, then revisit and address issues that arise. Given everything else in front of the PCI, there's no guarantee that happens. I believe we need to get this right the first time. And again, the master plan clearly points to the conflict between public opinion and the prohibition on short-term rentals. The question is really how to resolve it. The township began discussing this issue on February 10th, the very day the master plan got approved. That same meeting, the town board discussing created this committee, the ROS work group. The township has moved forward deliberately. We don't need the proposed amendment to expedite things. In fact, it may have slowed us down some. So I propose that we reject the ordinance for at least several reasons. One, I don't believe anyone who checked the box meant to say I support short-term rentals with regulations, and those regulations can be whatever STR proponents come up with. More likely, they thought I could support STRs if they came up with laws and enforcement mechanisms that protect me and my family from problems. Nobody in this room has any evidence that the proposed amendment comes close to that. The proposed amendment distracts from efforts of the ROS work group to identify resident concerns and options to address them. The proposed amendment directs attention away from other regulatory options. It has many technical shortcomings. It invites negotiation with STR proponents rather than focusing on learning specifically what safeguards and protection the residents want. My concern primarily is what residents want, not what STR proponents want. It seems to also shift the burden from STR enforcement to all residents rather than making people who profit from STRs pay the cost of effective enforcement mechanisms. I ask myself, why should all residents pay for the cost of associating or for policing STRs when only a few are profiting from them? And then again, it doesn't meet the standards of 21.5. So I think at this point, we've identified what short-term regulations the STR operators like. Now I think we need to find out what regulations residents want, and that's through the ROS work group. When this amendment was presented at the public hearing for almost a half an hour, there was not a single mention of the ROS work group, and I found that surprising. I see repeated efforts to shift focus away from community engagement and fact-finding that leads us towards reasonable and effective short-term rental regulations. I want the ROS work group to produce facts and data to inform the development of a new STR ordinance that balances the interests of STR owners and the public. The Planning Commission should then prepare a new ordinance. The proposed ordinance can certainly be used as a resource, but I think we need a clean slate to begin with and be guided by what residents tell us are important.
Well, I'm not going to repeat everything that's already been said, but there was a few things that I heard that weren't mentioned, so I'm going to mention those. Occupancy. In the proposed application, it talks about occupancy by bedrooms and then adding per acre. Occupancy is set by the state of Michigan with the Construction Code Act. And then also the septic system is set on per occupancy. So I think in any regulation that we would look at, that would have to be addressed. Right on the Grand Traverse County website, they talk about short-term rental review. And it states, various townships within Grand Traverse County request a review of property, well, and septic records for approval for a short-term rental licensure. Provided well and septic records exist, a report documenting the number of bedrooms supported by the on-site septic system will be issued. In an instance where there is no records exist, a third-party inspection will be required for determination to be made. Please consult with your township for your short-term rental requirements. And then they have a whole fee schedule and all that kind of stuff I won't read. The point is that not only with all the things that were mentioned, but the whole idea about occupancy, how many people you're going to put in this place, it's not something that we set, that's set by the state and set by the septic standards. I think that I agree with what everybody said, that this application for an amendment is not quite ready. There's a lot of issues that need to be addressed to take care of the issues of everybody in the township. And if we would push this forward at this point, I think we would be doing a disservice of our township residences.
I think technically the action would be to recommend denial of the application to the township board. I mean, just, it doesn't die here, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yep, all we do is make a recommendation. Anybody else have any more comments? Oh, you wanted to mention, I did go through every single email, and I'm just gonna find it. I'm sorry, I had it here.
Let me see if I can find mine.
Bring it up.
If you can, pass
Spend all day on it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I found it.
Oh, you got it, okay.
We separated it by, and we'll make this available on the website also. But we separated it also by people living on the lake, people that didn't live on the lake. I still would like to separate it once on zoning, which zones people live in.
Yeah.
But total actions against STRs, there was 78. This is all the emails from the beginning of the first meeting that we attempted to have here and till the last meeting as of 8/26. Against STRs was 78. Against STRs with the restrictions was 3. For STRs was 34. For STRs with the restrictions were 12. A total of 127 emails that I have received. Along with that, there was by non-residents, 20 of those 18 emails from non-residents for STRs or for STRs with restrictions was 18, and non-residents for STRs or against STRs was 2. We will make this available on the website for anybody who wants to take a look at it. Yes, Denise?
Does that include the letters that were sent in as correspondence?
Everything that was sent to me,
So when you say emails, that's letters and emails?
if a letter came to me via email, that's on here, yes.
Okay.
So if I'm not mistaken, maybe Deb can clarify this, but as emails came in, there was a process to forward them to Deb and the clerk, and those were then all collected. So there was a system wherein, the emails would be filed and organized so that.
Yep. There's a copy of each one of those at the clerk's office, anybody that's interested. And I believe it's on the website also. I think Deb has put them on the website. And I went through every single one of them, read every single one of them, and marked them myself.
So if someone, can I ask a question, please?
There'll be time for more public comment later.
Yeah. So if it's on the website and someone says, I sent an email or I sent a letter and they don't see theirs, they could resubmit it.
Or they could contact
Or contact somebody.
Deborah, the clerk, and find out where it went.
Yeah. So,
So these were almost 2-1 against.
Now, that's not including all of the people that spoke at the hearing also, and including not the people
So
that spoke here
there's-
today. Those are just the emails.
Yeah, point is, it's not necessarily 2/3
No,
or
that's,
4. We don't, this is going a little further, I think, when people realizing this may happen now, their feelings are a little different.
Well, remember, we're only voting on recommending the application.
Yeah, that's why we need the ROS to find the facts.
Yes, I agree with that also. Would anybody like make any motions at this point?
you make a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend denial of zoning ordinance case 2025-3 based upon the facts and findings listed and described in this.
I second. Merchant?
Yeah, Merchant seconds. Roll call vote.
Yes.
Are you ready, Kay?
Was that
Merchant.
Stratton or Merchant?
Merchant.
Merchant. Okay. Milnick,
Yes.
Merchant,
Yes.
Roble,
Yes.
Peltonen, yes. Stratton,
Yes.
Keith, I'm sorry, DeYoung,
Yes. Okay,
with Bosler absent, so Bosler.
right.
So that instrument goes to the town board with all of with the comments that have been discussed at the meeting,
Correct.
which are our findings.
Yes. Okay.
I don't know that can go through to the next town board meeting because it's next, I think the deadline for the packet has passed.
Yeah.
So that might be the meeting after that.
Okay. So it sounds like the town board will take that up not this coming meeting, but the next meeting. You know what?
Well, I would think, I can't,
Yeah.
I don't put the agenda.
Sure, it will
together.
be posted when it is. Okay. Deliberation on hearing number 2, ZA case 2025-4.
I'll make a few comments if you like about
Okay.
that. I think the ordinance amendment is really fairly straightforward. To refresh your memory, the township board has a separate resolution that describes the fee schedule for all zoning activity, whether it's a zoning permit, whether it's a site plan review, special use permit, whatever. There's a fee schedule. When the zoning ordinance currently describes a specific fee for amendments. We should have removed that and relied only on the fee schedule that the township board has adopted. The intent is that all the fees are in one resolution that the township board can periodically update. So it's very common that be a separate fee schedule rather than putting it in the ordinance, because to change the fees, you got to amend the ordinance. It's much easier for the town board to, and I think it was like 15 years since the last fee schedule was updated. So it's not like that's a common occurrence, but it's sensible to have a fee schedule outside the ordinance, and all we're trying to do is reconcile the two.
So this is already fee schedule that the township board has already approved.
They did earlier this year.
All we're doing is bringing our zoning ordinance in.
We're referencing that. It's no more complicated than that.
Okay. Sadie, you have anything on this?
Looks pretty straightforward.
Reen?
I believe this is to me, this is the clearest route to take in terms of setting fees and writing our making any changes to our ordinance, and would that include fees?
Denise?
Pretty straightforward for me.
See here. Okay. Brett, I believe we're not, I don't believe we should have every one of our ordinances have different fee schedules. I think we need to bring that in line with what the township has already approved and has, so I agree with that also.
If there's any debate on whether the fees are too high or too low, the conversation should be with the town board when they review
Right.
that again, not a zoning ordinance amendment.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move that we recommend approval for case ZA 2025-4, making the change to 21.04B. Petitioner shall deposit with the township clerk or zoning administrator the initial fee as stated on the Whitewater Township Planning and Zoning Fees Schedule toward payment of said costs.
I second.
Okay.
Merchant.
Merchant seconds. Okay, roll call?
Okay. Merchant,
Yes.
Roble,
Yes.
Peltonen, yes. Stratton,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Milnick,
Yes.
and Boser's absent.
Absent.
So, okay.
Okay, will also be recommended to the township board at their next available meeting. All right, I think we'll turn this over to Giffelson Webster and Randy.
Hello, Planning Commission. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead? Did you say turn it over to Andy or did you say turn it over to Randy? Sorry.
Well, both of you.
I think it's your show, Andy.
Yep.
So go right ahead.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, I'm Andy Amott. I quickly met you last meeting, but it was primarily Jill leading the quick discussion. I'm actually here tonight with my coworker Stephanie Osborne as well. But I'm happy to just kind of go over the the project tracker and timeline proposal. We put some things together ahead of the August meeting on how we foresee the project carrying forward. But obviously, as that meeting was adjourned, we decided to just go a little bit more into detail on the tracker timeline sheet at this meeting. I am not, I know I provided some materials to Trustee Milnick and Chairperson DeYoung a little bit late. I don't know if it reached your desk in terms of the tracker with the cost estimates. It doesn't sound like it did.
No.
Oh, okay. I'm happy to share my screen if that would be helpful. We have kind of the line item of kind of our bundles. We crafted some bundles together on potential zoning ordinance amendments as part of this process as a more succinct way to go over more thematic elements and updates so that you're kind of reviewing each amendment as it's belongs to a theme rather than kind of going through amendments all over the place. So if it's okay, I'll just share my screen real quick and kind of go over what I foresee being a game plan here. Let's see here. So can you see my spreadsheet here?
Yeah.
Can you enlarge it at all, or?
Yeah, I can zoom in and just scroll if that's okay. So and in our memo before last meeting, we kind of discussed really what these bundles are. So really the point of it is bundling these items together so that we can get through amendments in a fluid manner, and we're reviewing like topics together. So we foresee the first bundle being the PUD section update, the CO PUD section update, an improvement to the development process, and an update to the condominium development standards. Those are all kind of similar in that they are processes. They're review processes that the planning commission has a role in, and we want to make sure that we're crafting amendment text that is fitting to how the township wants to review these things. So that's one bundle. And I'd like to say, I don't think our job tonight is really zeroing in on hours and costs per se. Yeah, the costs are definitely a guide that I think you should be familiar with as you make decisions on, if we want to go through with this process in this manner. But the anticipated hours, a lot goes into this from a me perspective, from the consultant perspective. We're bundling, research. We're bundling anticipated meetings with planning commission and the development of this text all into these hours. So I mean, is this a rather is planning commission rather okay with these items being bundled together? One, the PUD section update, the CO PUD section update, the development process in general. So that's things like site plan review processes, special use processes, and then as well as any applicable updates to the condominium development standards. Any thoughts there?
I just have one comment on that. If I remember correctly, the way that these priorities and bundles came together was you asked the planning commission to look at these issues and rank them in terms of importance. And so that's factored into what gets done first. Is that correct?
Correct. That's a really good point, and I should have introduced that point earlier. Yeah, we created these bundles and the priority levels in that second column to next to bundle. Sorry, I'm just gonna move my screen up. So this priority column is based on largely your master plan, your survey responses. So we accumulated the survey responses of all you planning commissioners, and just general comments from general understanding of kind of what we discovered in our zoning audit. So the priority is mostly based on the master plan and your survey. So I'm very happy to hear any response or any comments you have on priority level as well. But we really have 4 bundles that are very high and medium level priorities. I'll get to the last bundle, bundle 5, which is a little bit more low level priorities based on your feedback and based on the master plan. So I would say that this first bundle is very high and medium priority. So it's definitely from your master plan and your survey responses. Amendments are very much necessary to the PUD section, the CO PUD section, the development process in general, and maybe some updates to the condominium development standards as well.
Andy, is there anything that talks about the amount of time it would, not your time, but like the low hanging fruit, I guess, is what I'm asking about, versus since we've got a lot on our plate right now, is there anything in your table that tells us, things that you think we can work through more quickly than others?
I mean, I guess our time goes towards that as well, I would think. Let me look here. I think I included. So I guess, did you receive the kind of the tracking timeline before last meeting, before the August meeting.
I know we received a packet from you. I don't know, I don't
Okay.
remember exactly what was in it.
Yep. So we included a zoning ordinance update timeline. So kind of the way that we foresee each meeting going throughout this process. Let me share my screen on that real quick.
I can go back through my packets and find it too.
Yep. So it looked like this. Can you see this spreadsheet?
Mhm.
Sorry. Let me full screen this. So I think there should be a way. So I don't usually, I hope this just works here. I don't usually present in Excel, so I'm sorry about that. But this is how we see some of the proposed meetings going. Was this kind of what you were asking for, or were you more asking about how do we create a process where we do the easy stuff first? So quick updates first, and then prioritize long updates maybe to the end.
I guess I was wondering if there was a sort of a cross-reference with things that were from the survey were rated as highly important
Okay.
versus the amount of time it would take to make the amendment.
Okay, yeah, I think so. So when I put this together, I mostly if there were items that were going to be quick, I tried to make those high priority. So I tried to just make sure that they were covered in the first 4 bundles for sure,
Okay.
being high priority items. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I guess the other thought I would add is that some of those items are larger than others. For example, there was recently an update to the condominium regulations, so I'm not thinking that there's a lot to change in that. And there were also some other changes to process. So we can discuss that later, but I guess I see the weight of those issues being somewhat different between the different categories, and I imagine you do too.
Yeah, I mean, I think then bundle 1 becomes a little thin. It becomes a little easy, but I mean, I'm not opposed to us kind of having a quicker meeting to start, just to kind of get underway and get used to the project. So I mean, I think these 2 line items can then be kind of a little bit more. I mean, we can provide an updated estimate in hours even, but.
No, I guess I think what you have there is fine. I just think the first 2, 1 and 2, are the larger issues in that first bundle of 4. So it makes sense to me.
When you're saying the bundle, the numbers, are you going, because they're not consecutively numbered. If you say the top 4, you have 1, 2, 23, 24.
Bundle numbers.
Yeah, sorry.
You're going on the bundle column.
Yeah, let's just not look at those numbers. Those are the list based on just based on what I gathered from your master plan and the zoning audit and just issues in general. I think so. Bundle is just the kind of the coherent naming indicator that we group these things by. So these would all be bundle 1, which is, and I'm going to switch tabs here. That would be the first meeting we go over as a team here. That would potentially be the October Planning Commission meeting. If we want to kind of set things off then, where we introduce policy decisions that the Planning Commission will need to make based on your master plan and your township's vision in streamlining the PUD process and the COPUD process, and going over review criteria or eligibility requirements you'd like to see. And then a second meeting would be based on you would then review the language on top of going over policy and an introduction of another bundle. So that's kind of why we did both we provided both a tracker bundle based on these items in general, but also a timeline tracker where we go over how we foresee these upcoming meetings going. So that being said, it sounds like bundle one, it could be kind of quick because it's there's a couple of these items have kind of already been underway, but that's not a bad thing because it would be our first policy meeting together.
Yeah. So you're saying this proposed meetings timelines, we could do all of this in 5 meetings?
So we could potentially do all of this in 5 meetings if we're very, very very on track. That's not to say you shouldn't ask any questions and you shouldn't take careful time to deliberate. But I think it's definitely a goal to have this done in terms of an introduction and policy discussion and review of all the draft language within 5 meetings based on what I've presented in this tracker.
What if we held a special meeting just for that?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. We've had communities when we do these zoning updates decide to do just the zoning as a special supplemental meeting every month.
Yeah.
It's definitely a decision of yours to make. If you think that your meetings are going to be too long because you have developments to review, you have the short-term rentals ordinance, or any emergency ordinance that pops up on your desk, it's definitely a decision that can be made that we do these zoning update meetings as a supplemental meeting. My dog might be interested in that herself. I don't know if you can hear her. Sorry about that. She's very opinionated apparently on this topic, but it's a decision you all can make to have this zoning update be a second meeting.
So again, just to be clear, you would be drafting new reworded language that's improves, changes, enhances what we have, and then providing that to us in a redlined or red text, whatever, strikeout form. And then we would have that before the meeting, and we would be able to review it and then come to the meeting with comments, questions, and concerns.
Yep. The goal would be to provide it by your packet deadline, which I understand in most communities is a week ahead of the meeting. Sometimes a little bit longer, just because we'd be providing you a lot of information. So maybe it would be like a week and a half ahead of your potential meeting date. And we would provide, so for example, let's zoom into this PC meeting 2, because we're kind of doing 2 things here. So we would provide you ideally the PUD and COPUD not final, but draft language, where we have, a redlined marked up language, and any applicable language for the development process and condominium requirements as well. But we'd also that meeting be introducing you key policy points of the architectural requirements for non-residential land uses, C1 district development standards and uses, N district development standards and uses, and the V district development standards and uses. So it very well could be a very jam-packed meeting agenda. And there'd be a value to, I think, having perhaps a supplemental meeting.
And then all these go to public hearing at once?
We would send them all to public hearing, ideally at the end, just so it's one public hearing. But if we've had communities do things differently. Some communities have said, let's get and I think part of it's based on if the community wants to use our clear zoning format. So one of the items that we usually include as part of all of our zoning ordinance updates is putting it in our clear zoning format, which is a structure that, in our opinion, is organized, the layout that we use in a lot of our communities. But not every community wishes to adopt the clear zoning structure. It's a little bit of an added cost to the overall project. If we're converting it to clear zoning, we definitely advise the public hearing to be done at the end, because then the community can see the product in the kind of the ultimate structure that it will be in. But if you don't wish to do clear zoning format, we could do public hearings at the end of each draft language segment. There's a kind of a pro and a con. I think the pro to that would be that there's definitely a sense of accomplishment by everybody involved that, okay, we've adopted language, we're moving forward. But you know, the disadvantage is that, you know, there's a little bit added time to it. Sometimes it's more efficient to save everything for the end. It's just a matter of your preference though in the end.
Anybody object to having a special meeting this month?
This month?
It's the beginning of it.
How long does Andy need to get the material together?
How long would it take you to have material together for?
I think honestly, it would be nice if that first special meeting could be sometime in October.
Okay.
I mean, I was planning for the October, the October first
Yes.
regular meeting.
Yes.
But probably not anything before that, to be honest. I think having anything in September would be too quick for us.
Okay, well, we'll definitely put it on for the October 1st. And then I guess we'll determine from there if we need a special meeting.
Yeah,
Right.
or if you want to reach out and do, you know, poll your commissioners, or you can provide it right now, but if there's a regular standing meeting date that generally will work for everybody for the next 5 months as special meetings for the zoning rewrite, I mean, we're definitely happy to figure something out. I mean, we as consultants, we're popping into a lot of different planning commission meetings throughout the month. It's nice that this one is open for me and my colleague Stephanie, that this first Wednesday of the month is open for us. But if we could land on a potential date as an alternative, I mean, that's an option as well.
My hope was if we did a special meeting that it wouldn't take us the 5 months.
Mm-hmm. Well,
if we dedicated a special meeting, could we maybe do 2 in 1?
Two bundles?
Honestly, I think when you start to see the review of draft language and the introduction of new policies, I think that's a lot for an agenda. I would think anything more than that is very tiring for the average planning commission that I work with. I think I can already see that you're a very detailed oriented commission, so I don't doubt your stamina and your skills, but I do think that when we get to reviewing draft language of the previous discussion plus introducing new topics and new policies, it's a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
And I would think maybe the 5 months is is definitely realistic, but anything faster is a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit tiring.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to have a special meeting for each of these bundles or.
Okay.
But for the planning commissioners to get together with their calendars individually.
Yeah.
And you know, because this goes into the months where people may be
We'll
traveling.
understand it better too, the first one we have in October.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the plan then. We'll wait for October 1st and go through that first batch.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great to us. Any other is everybody in consensus about the bundles though in general? I mean, does it seem like a coherent, organized plan? And do we want to just roll with it as kind of presented in the spreadsheet?
I think that'll work.
Okay.
I like it.
Yeah.
Great. I will we'll definitely go with this then, and then perhaps I can be in contact with perhaps Chairperson DeYoung and Trustee Milnick about just how we go about this process. I think I'll follow up with you via email this week about it.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right. I guess that being said, I mean, I wanted to discuss maybe the fifth bundle with you real quick. I mean, is this something you're generally interested in? It was kind of the lower priority, but kind of encompassed more minor updates.
I think if you could send us that, did you say you sent sent all that already?
Yeah, I sent it like Friday, so I understand it probably didn't make your meeting packet, but it was it was pretty recent. So I'll just follow up with it. I do have to admit that my column for anticipated cost was incorrect on a line item standpoint. So why don't I just send you a new one that is totally accurate?
That would be wonderful. And then we can go over it.
I think with regard to bundle 5, they're low and medium priority, but still, accessory structures and fences, for instance, is something that I'm sure comes up all the time.
Yeah.
And the sign ordinance, I know, is definitely an issue in terms of needing to be updated. So, it looks like there's a lot in there, even though they're small things, but
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I want to point out that signs in wireless communication facilities, these are actually two topics we like to review in all of our zoning rewrites because there is case law that we want to make sure we're in alignment with and state and federal laws, especially for the wireless facilities that so we conduct revisions on these topics in any sense of the process of whatever our process is going to look like. And so it would make sense to kind of have a fifth bundle. It just might be, it could vary in level of detail. And it sounds like you, Commissioner, already have a little bit of thought on how you might want to amend your accessory structures and fence ordinance. So, maybe it is a bundle that we keep here, this fifth bundle.
yeah, I think there's too many important topics in there to not cover it.
There's
I
nothing
understand.
else.
I think that's
We'll go ahead
good.
and move on. Are you good there, Sandy?
Yep, I'm good here. I think I got a general consensus on what we're looking for, and then I'll be in touch with you, Chairperson, and Trustee Mielnik, pretty soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for having me. Bye.
All right, moving on.
So just so I can understand, he already sent you something that you can forward to
He's
us?
going to resend it.
He's going to resend, okay.
He said something about the cost wasn't correct on it or something. So
Okay,
as soon as he does, we'll make sure everybody gets it.
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, Reen?
Okay, so the Resident Outreach Subcommittee, the first thing I need to do with you is a little bit of housekeeping. It was brought to our attention that that we probably should not be using the term subcommittee in terms of whether the group was going to be subject to the Open Meetings Act and other things. And so I'd like to make a motion about changing the name to the Resident Outreach Work Group, which would allow us to, we don't have closed meetings, but we're not taking minutes, we're not taking public comment. We're truly just a work group that's focused on whatever assignment we have at that meeting. So here's my motion. I move that the Planning Commission hereby establishes the Resident Outreach Work Group, formerly known as the ROS, to gather and compile information regarding topics as set forth by the Planning Commission. This group is not delegated authority to deliberate, recommend, or decide planning or zoning matters. Its sole role is to provide raw data and information back to the Planning Commission.
I'll second that. Just want to be clear, so the new acronym is ROGUE? ROGUE?
Yeah, ROWG.
Okay.
What, you want a roll call vote?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Roble,
Yes.
Peltonen, yes. Stratton,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Milnick,
Yes.
Merchant,
Yes.
and Bosler's absent. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna be making a report. Next month is gonna be a little funky because we are meeting the first Tuesday of every month. And so we'll be meeting I think it's October 7th. All of our meetings are on the township website already. So we'll be meeting after the planning commission. So I'll give you an update on the research that we're working on, but I won't have a formal report for that meeting. So you've all been given a copy of the meeting notes from the September 2nd meeting. And I gave you hard copies at the beginning of the meeting. We had 4 members. I was aware ahead of time that 3 of the members would not be able to attend the meeting, so I requested the 2 alternates to attend as well. One was able to, one was not. So we had 4 members plus myself at the meeting, and we went over introductions, what how the ROWG is going to work, discussed in detail about bias and leaving our preferences, preconceived notions, et cetera, at the door, and just doing straight research and data collection. And then we'll also be holding 1 or 2 workshops where we're meeting with the public, similar to what we did with the master plan. The little sticky notes, all that sort of stuff, asking questions. And so everything that we do will be under the direction of the Planning Commission. So our first assignment is and I gave you a copy of our municipality STR ordinance research worksheet. No acronym there. And I made a list of 10 towns that are on water, because the water in Whitewater Township is a very important part of our character, and as stated in the master plan. And so we decided each person would select 1 town to begin with in order to research. And they're not just looking for the short-term rental ordinances, but they're also going to bring to the table a copy of the zoning map, the definitions that are referred to in the STR, the civil infraction ordinances and/or police power. And I've asked them specifically to contact the local zoning administrator or official in that township to have a conversation with them, and given them a list of questions that they can either answer through their review of the short-term rental ordinance or through their conversation with the zoning administrator, and also any demographics, so that we understand what we're looking at, because some of these towns are larger than ours, some of them may not be as rural. So we're looking at all of those things, but we still feel that their ordinances have something that we can learn from. And all of that research will be presented to the Planning Commission. Because we are not subject to the Open Meetings Act, that allows the work group to converse via email and share information via email to our entire group. And so as people complete their research worksheet, they can turn in all of their information electronically to the entire group, and that gives the group the opportunity to ask questions before our next meeting. So if they need to research something further, if we're feeling like they're a little light in an area, they can go back and research that before the next meeting. And if they complete their research, they can take another town that's on the list, or if they would like to suggest a different town, we're open to that as well. So that's what we're starting with. Something that, Carl has very rightly brought up, which is looking at what other townships and municipalities have done in terms of short-term ordinance research. We also discussed sharing information in terms of the general public, because it is not the role of the ROWG to be dispersing data and information to the general public so that they can, a group either for or against short-term rentals can use that to create a groundswell of support one way or the other. So while the meetings aren't closed, we do want to be careful about how we're handling our information. I can't stop someone who's attending the meeting in the audience from sharing what we're doing, but the members of the ROWG won't be, except with the Planning Commission. There's a couple of points that they specifically asked me to bring up with you. Number 6 on the meeting notes, which is the role of the civil infraction ordinance, and that it needs to be in place to support a short-term rental ordinance as well as existing ordinances. I told them that I would make sure that I brought that to the PC's attention, and I'm hoping that Randy will bring that to the town board's attention in his report. Heidi handed out from a seminar from MTA that she took in August of 2024. And I've given you all a copy of the PowerPoint that she shared with us. And this actually has some really useful information in terms of to regulate or not regulate, what the pros and cons are of that, levels of regulation, ancillary issues, and enforcement, of course. And so I'd like to encourage the PC to take a closer look at that as we're considering the short-term rental rewrite. And then the last part was, which is now a moot point, but I will bring it up, is that the group asked me to share with the PC their concerns regarding the STR ordinance that Ms. Steelman had submitted, and recommending this ordinance for approval would be premature because the ROWG is just beginning their research. And I think that was made clear in our findings of fact that when we voted to not recommend the ordinance move forward. So I will be looking for input from the PC in terms of assignments, in terms of the quality of the research and information that I'm providing you. And also I have a question, which is, can we get support for the workshops that similar to what the master plan ROS had for their workshops? Is that something, do I need to bring that to the board because it's a kind of a budget question, or?
It is. I mean, the request has to be to the town board for that, but I believe you'll find support there.
Okay. And would that be Giffords Webster or?
That's a good question. I guess
Okay.
it really depends on the work that you want done. I know there was some talk before about a community survey.
Right.
Again, to expand on the one question we had in the master plan to something more useful to crafting an ordinance.
Right.
As well as the workshop too, as to whether bringing in an outside party to help facilitate that wouldn't be a bad idea in my mind, so that it's impartial and we're not accused of steering it in one direction or another.
Right. So is that so should I contact Giffords Webster to ask them if that's within their purview and find out approximately what the budget would need to be and then present that to the town board? Would that be the right way to do it?
I think you should ask them first, because some.
The town board first or Giffords Webster?
Giffords, if what their fees would be, because some of them can be up to $25,000. I don't know if our board would go for that large of a budget.
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't know till you ask them.
Okay.
And it could be two entities too, one to help with the survey and the other to facilitate the workshop. I
Right.
guess I don't know exactly what the ROS has in mind, but I think
We don't yet either.
The more clear we get the scope of services, the better to.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the thoughts I was just having is that these communities that have already done a short-term rental ordinance, like Petoskey, it took them 2 years. They might have a survey that they used, and we could look at what they asked in their survey and things like that to get questions. So if we go to someone and say, these are the questions, they're similar, very similar questions we would like, that would give them, that would not cost us as much as if they did rewrote everything. And they might just do the exact same thing. There was always criticism that someone was saying that all they did was take the survey from another community that they helped, and then they charged us $10,000 for it. So
The survey questions that I had made a few months back, I don't know if you still have copies of those. Those are actually based on survey questions from another town in Michigan.
Yeah.
Not Petoskey, I think it's South Haven, but I'm not positive about that because I did it quite a while ago. So yes, there is a lot of information like that available.
yeah, well, I was just because I have about 18 points from the public comments last meeting that people brought up, just as, comments that they made for or against short-term rentals. And could I just send those to you? And I didn't want to go through all of that with the time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Thank you for your work.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a great meeting, very, very professional group of people. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with. I should bring this up as well. I did not take one of the towns because I'll be kind of doing random fact checking to make sure that we are remaining unbiased, and presenting things accurately. Great.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Reen.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, I don't know if we're totally prepared to talk about the wineries next, but we're still moving ahead. What I did want to mention was you should see something in your packet. I want to start using these worksheets, and I'd like Reen to you to start with two, starting with dates and when we did what, and this just each month add to it. So that every month we come here, we see the progress and everybody can see the progress that we've made.
Okay.
So what I have done is I've done one on outside venues, the stuff that I've worked on already with the fire chief. And then I just briefly started one for the wineries because I didn't have quite all the information I needed on that yet. But I would like to have something like that together for each one that we work on, just so that we can keep our own minds fresh of what's happened in the past and what we're doing to move forward. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
I don't think it's too intrusive, too much work.
And then you'll continue with the next meeting type comment.
You just use the same one. All you do is just add to the bottom, what we accomplished or whatever. And you could, and I'm not talking about putting like the whole the minutes in or anything like that. I'm just talking about
The timeline.
milestones.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I just don't want to, we won't be coming up with a suggested definition. We'll just be
No, and that might
providing-
not fit
yeah,
this. I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
okay.
It's just kind of the idea.
But just as
of-
an example,
Right.
okay. Okay.
So I don't know if you had a chance to look at, I guess we'll quick just talk about the wineries. Is there anything you want to mention? I know I sent you a bunch of stuff and you were gone, so I don't know if you got a chance to see the fire chief
I couldn't see the comments.
on the fire chiefs?
Like there's an attachment, but it was just the ordinance.
Okay, I'll make sure I send that to you.
So I have one page ordinance to worksheet. Is that what I'm seeing? On page 21.
Yeah, right now, I think it's just 2 pages on the outside venues ordinance and 1 on the wineries and tastings, because I didn't have
Yeah.
all the information on it yet.
Page 21 and 22 of the packet.
For some reason mine printed out funny. Got them kind of mixed up here.
But I think that you're,
There is, Denise sent us some of the findings on the court case for the wineries and,
I passed it out, the Vanessa, he's the attorney for the Michigan Wine Collaborative Association. So he went through the court ruling highlights, and I thought it would be interesting not to you know, to look at that when we're considering what we're saying and thinking about doing. The one thing I just added to that is this Giffords special meetings that I think group number 4 is agritourism, so that would put it into December, I believe, that conversation. I don't have it in front of me. I was looking at the August packet that, but we could, you know, see what they have to say and go
I'm
with
not
it.
sure where they're at on that, but I know there are other issues besides wineries, including
Yeah.
farm stands and
Yeah,
and things like that that they may be focused on. That's
Okay.
gotten a lot of attention. Apart
Okay.
from the wineries are somewhat of a unique issue for this part of the state.
Yeah. One of the worksheet, and Sadie, you can jump in here anytime. The ordinance worksheet is at page 23 for,
I don't have page numbers on mine.
on the packet on your computer, just the third group, you know, there's a page 22 of 40. It shows which page you're on in the packet electronically.
I'm looking at the worksheets. Go ahead.
Are you talking about the worksheets?
I'm looking at the agenda packet.
Yeah, I know, but I just have a hard copy which doesn't have page numbers on it, so.
Yeah, there's no pages, that's why I'm on the packet. It's the page 21 of 40, topic wineries and tasting rooms draft. Started
Okay.
8/14, 8/26, and then that's the beginning of it, and then the next page is the ordinance worksheet. Oh, that's outside
Those are what
venues.
Keith made those, yes.
Okay, so we don't have a worksheet for the winery.
It's the first one.
It's the only one, right? Is it the one that just says suggested definition, intent, draft ordinance, permits?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Keith made that,
Yeah,
yes.
that's it. Right? Okay. Yeah.
And then
So,
there's the attached draft ordinance from 7/22 that we've been working on.
is that in the packet? Or is that just referencing 7/22?
I don't know, it says, and the draft ordinance says see attached draft ordinance, but you should have it from, it's the same one that we've been working on.
Yeah, okay. This one.
There's not a new draft ordinance for this meeting, it's the same one.
I kind of threw a lot at her last month. I did send that email from Josh.
Okay.
It was just an email from the fire
Okay, it
chief.
wasn't crazy?
No,
Okay, good.
and it's all it is just what he wrote on the email.
Oh, I didn't,
So I just forwarded it to you in case I didn't forward you the right one.
nope, this was different.
Okay.
So yeah, this is right. I didn't have any of this.
So he has a lot of information about there, being that's where he was from.
Okay. Cool. I'll look at that. Yeah, I didn't change anything. I feel like the last meeting I was kind of at a standstill of like what needs to be changed. So,
I think it'll give us a good start if, take a look at the stuff that we have now. At least that'll kind of quell any concerns we have about what happened in Old
Yeah.
Mission.
Yeah.
So do we have a noise ordinance with like hours?
No.
I thought we said at the last meeting we do not have an hour.
It's, that's what I was gonna bring up. Our noise ordinance is vague,
Yeah, I'm thinking that
and we
that's
really
gonna
need
have
to rework
be-
it.
it's
Yeah.
Whitewater Township noise ordinance is number 39.
Well, I'm looking at the letter that Denise gave us, and it said that rules prohibiting amplified music and off-site catering directly conflicted with rights granted under the Michigan Liquor Control Code permits. And so it seems to me if, I know they're talking about prohibiting, but if we don't have hours listed in our noise ordinance, that we're gonna run into a problem with
Right.
with music, for instance. But, so maybe that's something we're gonna need to look at as well.
And it's vague. It says what is considered normal voices. So, what's normal, because everybody hears a little differently.
Right.
And people talk louder and they think that's normal, and other people are cringing. So I have this was from a long time ago. I looked up the Traverse City noise ordinance, and I have a copy of it, I believe, somewhere in this wonderful stack. But they actually have a measurement in theirs of what is, that the sound cannot be over. And that's what's needed. You need an actual number. You can't say, oh, that sounded really loud to me. And, and people aren't going to be able to, say, what exactly is too loud. So I'll just say City of Traverse City has a noise ordinance, and
Does the state of Michigan have that? Because it also, in the ordinance, that the way it's written now, says that will conform to the Whitewater Township Noise Ordinance number 39 and the statute for disturbing the peace, which is outlined in the state of Michigan code under MCL 750.170. So
Yeah.
does that have?
I think that's a
I don't know, we'd have to
smart
look
way to go.
I mean, if it's the state of Michigan, I would think that.
I don't honestly know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to look at that.
So, here's the Traverse City noise ordinance. So, they have maximum sound levels tables, and the times that those different levels are acceptable, things like that. So I can just give this to you for your group, but something similar, something that's measurable, and they're governed probably by the state of Michigan too. So they have a larger population and probably more staff than we do that have reviewed all what they've written. But
I think anytime we can reference a law or rule from the state of Michigan,
Yeah.
Yeah.
rather than making up our own, is better.
Right.
yeah, they do the MCLs, which I don't know, MCLA sections and things like that. So,
All right, well, I'm here, we're going to go over that again we'll try to have it ready for next month.
yeah.
If there's something I can help you with, Sadie, let me know.
Okay.
I know I've thrown a lot on your shoulders.
Yep.
Yes, you did.
The only thing I'm going to mention about the outside venue ordinance is just the draft letter with the ordinance worksheet, just the stuff that I gather as I go. I'm adding to it. You can take a look at it. It's not taking any action on it at this point. Anybody have any questions on it? Sadie, was there anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. No. I'm gonna look at all this more and be more prepared with,
Okay.
now that we have this in front of me and I have those comments, so.
And then just out of, I don't know if with the winery, the tasting rooms, if there's setbacks that apply just to them. I don't know if that's something we want to look at as well, or if we could designate setbacks that, most of them are not on a road per se. I've seen some that, well, you can't see them from the road. I checked a nearby one, it's 700 feet.
I think the building code addresses setbacks. I don't know if we're going to address stuff like that, do we?
We
We have
have,
setbacks in our ordinance,
Yeah,
and we
in our
could,
ordinance,
we
yeah.
could adjust them for a larger operation like a winery.
I mean, what did we put, what was put in here already? Hold on, it was addressed in the ordinance that I wrote.
I guess I would tie it to a public purpose, though. I mean, what's the point of larger setbacks for a winery?
Noise.
Well, okay.
the noise control, because you can't control the verbiage of your ordinance to address noise that,
So
you'd have to do it with setbacks and
Why don't you research that a little bit, Denise?
yeah, that's what I was gonna
Find
say.
it, whatever you can get, send to
Yeah.
Sadie. I can keep throwing stuff on her and we need to help her out a little bit.
in the ordinance that we've been working on, that it does say, it says all 5.13 permitted uses, C, all winery buildings shall conform to the standards outlined in Article 4.12, Table 4, primary dimensional requirements. To encourage the use of existing buildings, the existing setbacks of a building may be accepted under a grandfather clause subject to site plan review and approval. And there's another point too that talks about setbacks, because we had talked about that and we had looked at that table and agreed that that was okay. So we did go through that.
Okay, then I'll have to discuss that more because my concern is noise. And if we have no control over the noise, then people will not be happy around the cidery or the winery.
Are we getting, I mean, wouldn't that be part of the outside venue ordinance?
Yeah, it would be the same thing.
Yeah.
So it would apply the noise control ordinance and setbacks would address both of those for the outdoor venues. And that was in many of the comments for the outdoor venues in the survey the last time, and similar with the winery or the tasting rooms.
So if we get the outside venue ordinance shaped up, we could refer to it in the wineries, in the tasting room ordinance.
And short-term rentals, the noise nuisance
Right.
control. So that's why I'm focusing more on the noise levels than that ordinance because it's vague. And one of the things they say.
Well, maybe that should be discussed in the noise ordinance,
Yeah.
but not in the wineries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's move on to Zoom. Reason I put this on here is because there's been so much confusion on Zoom. I was even confused there for a month. But what my understanding is the township has agreed that they use Zoom during their meetings for viewing only or for people that are presenting?
Well, originally it was for viewing only, and then it was recently changed to allow public comment via Zoom when public hearings are advertised as a way of trying to help address the fact that our meeting areas are not always as big as we'd like. And as we know, we had 6 people too many for the one short-term rental hearing that we couldn't hold. Had Zoom been available, we might have been able to have people comment over Zoom and we could have had the meeting. So that's the policy as I understand it currently, that for both the township board and the planning commission, that public comment is only allowed for public hearings.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of gets to the point of a public hearing. You're putting an ordinance out there for public comment. You want feedback, you want residents, so why not make it easy for them to contribute?
I just want to make sure everybody was clear, because I wasn't clear at first. Does anybody want to discuss that further? My understanding is that we could accept what the township board does, or we can do something different. Is that correct or no?
I don't know of any requirement that the planning commission has to do exactly what the town board does.
So that's why I just wanted to put it out there.
I don't know this gentleman's name. Is he going to be at all of our meetings?
Yes, we'll be taking care of Zoom. I do have a question for you.
What is your name?
My name is Matthew Kern. I work for LIA, or LIAA, here in Traverse City, a nonprofit.
Is there added cost or added, what is there extra for you to do if we allow public comment on every meeting?
Via Zoom?
Yes.
I would say that you should probably have a person who's dedicated to just controlling the Zoom so that they don't have to participate as a chairperson or trustee and control the Zoom, or be a recording secretary and control Zoom. So this is a temporary measure to record these this way, at least for the month of September, and then potentially further into the future. But I definitely think you should have a person dedicated to just controlling Zoom if you are going to have public comment via Zoom as well, because they'd have to be controlling the muting and unmuting of people and queuing people up as well.
Okay.
It's technically possible that someone else could do it, but it would end up.
No, it's not possible.
It
doesn't go well.
And as you've seen, if you do offer public comment and then there are technical issues, it becomes significant. It's more significant than just a technical issue at any meeting.
So what happens during hearings then? Who does that?
So far, I mean, in the most recent one we did at Woodland School, I was just queuing people up to make public comment at that meeting. But that's the only one that's been done that way so far.
Guess I'm asking Randy, what is
Yeah,
the board got planned?
Well, I think the board wants your feedback as well, but I think you're scheduled to do the two other hearings that are coming up, the one at East Bay as
And
well as the one at
Mill Creek. Yes.
Right, because those are, again, similar situations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I do know the town board would like to know the planning commission's view of continuing the way we're going here with this. I think as a former operator of the Zoom, I can tell you it is exactly very difficult to pay attention to what's going on and look at Zoom. And I think Denise will echo that comment too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess-
having taught online for years during the pandemic, I don't recommend doing that and trying to do something and trying to pay attention to
Yeah.
what's happening. I think we need someone like Matthew at our meetings.
And in the past, we've had Zoom for several years. I think when Lois McLean was recording secretary, she was in charge of it most of the time. And there may have before some wells, but then we ran into problems with really not a dedicated person, but it's been extremely valuable because you have seasonal people that live a long ways away, and we're bringing up things that affect them. And so they should be able to, it should be more than a one-way. We need to get their input or whoever. I listen in on Zoom to some of the board meetings, not all of them, but so I kind of have an idea of what's going on that I wouldn't have any other way. But, and, you know, I think a couple times I used Zoom from home and actually did, in those days, you could make comments. I don't know why we stopped that, but other than maybe we just don't have anybody dedicated to it.
Well, I guess my opinion on it is that if the township's not going to provide somebody to do it, we can't do it, not and do our jobs. So I think we will just do by what the township decides to do then. And
Want to
offer
encourage
Zoom.
the township board to continue to offer this at the planning commission and
Yep, we'll offer the Zoom to at least to be able to view and hear it. And then any hearing, we'll have to get you guys to come help us out, I guess.
Can I ask another question, though, about this? Is there a point at which we can get to you running Zoom remotely from, with our equipment?
Possibly, yes. And it wouldn't have to be me coming out every single time. We work with other townships in the Grand Traverse area to record their meetings as well. And we always we have a pool of videographers that we send out to those, or to those meetings. But I should also say that with a few adjustments to equipment in here, which I think are also probably we're not an equipment vendor or anything like that. Because we're just a local nonprofit that makes equipment recommendations for townships, and then helps service that equipment. But with adjustments to equipment in here, I do think it would be less of a heavy lift for the person, because we're having to set this up each time. It takes an hour of setup each time. Whereas if we made some adjustments in here, we could make it so that the videographer and the person controlling Zoom would have everything pre-configured and would be able to show up.
I'm going to interrupt just for a minute for point of order. It's 10 o'clock. I would move that, we can make a motion that we extend it to up to another hour if needed to finish this meeting.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Yes, second. Stratton?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Carried.
I'm going for those 2 meetings a month.
I'm hoping it's not going to be another hour, so we're going to try to
Okay.
move this along.
1 day, yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So I think that's our direction, is I'm just going to mimic the township board at this time until.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll pass that along.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We do not have a case review, correct? Okay. So our next meeting is October 1st, 2025 at 7 p.m.
So just to be clear, that site plan was withdrawn because the material wasn't complete. Is that correct?
You want to quick just talk on that, Deb?
Just a quick update.
Hi. The fire department had not gotten a letter of approval for the site. Gordy Frazier reviewed the plans, felt there needed to be a culvert included, and had a couple of adjustments to their site plan. So the site plan, the culvert, the fire department, we're waiting for those changes. They're hoping to either, if they can get it in for a special meeting, but due to the fact that we're meeting on October 1st, the next meeting, it's really tough for me to try to get everything noticed. So, and I'm not sure we need to notice it for a site plan, do we, Randy?
Pardon me?
We don't need to notice for a site plan review, is that correct?
No.
So it may be here for the first, if they can squeeze it in and get a special meeting, they'd love to get started on it. But right now, Grand Traverse Plastics they're working on it.
Okay.
And the other thing, the letter from the tribe, they're trying to get water from the tribe for fire suppression. That's the other thing I'm waiting for.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I want it in writing, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're pushing on that too.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now, next meeting is October 1st, 2025, 7 p.m. And we move to public comment. Who wants to go first? Don't all jump up at once.
Looks like it's me.
Meanie.
Kim Angus, 5101 Brown Bear still. I want to point something out. There was a recommendation made from the work group. Now, I understand that's kind of the point of a work group, to have recommendations. Would you agree that the work group is supposed to make recommendations based on community input that they've received?
Yes.
What community information did they receive prior to last night's meeting?
What recommendation to which are you referring to?
I'm just saying, what input did the work group, and we can make it rhetorical, did the work group receive last night? They didn't have any. So why is the work group sending the township board a recommendation about the urgency of the civil infractions ordinance?
We're not here to answer questions for public comment, so you just go ahead and make your comments.
Rhetorical. Rhetorical.
I'll be glad to answer them next
Here's
meeting.
my concern. First meeting of the work group, and I waited until now, so there's not as many people. But first meeting of the work group, and you have a recommendation to the township board about the urgency of the civil infractions ordinance. That's not based on any community input. You haven't had any yet. So I'm very concerned about where I see this going. Please be aware, be conscious of the optics, the way things look. It's bad enough you have a work group that has 5 waterfront residents. to begin with. It is a very, very weighted board. It is not even keeled. It is not balanced. It can't even pretend to be balanced. And coming out with a recommendation already when you haven't had any community outreach, you can't even pretend that it's based on community input because you haven't had any. I'm concerned that what I'm seeing is an intent to kill businesses and anyone doing short-term rentals. And then once we've killed them all off, then maybe we'll set up some standards to move forward. I sincerely hope that isn't the case. I hope you're going to continue to move forward with this in a timely manner. And in the meantime, realize, I know there's people that say, oh, it's all illegal. I have seen people being told that it was legal. The assumption previously was that it was legal. So there's a lot of well-intentioned people that were not trying to break the law. They weren't trying to flaunt anything. Come up with something in the meantime, a temporary moratorium on prosecution, a temporary permit. There needs to be some way that we can have this discussion where people can participate without being afraid to talk, without being afraid to give their name, without being afraid of putting their address on this sign-in sheet. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Mike Jacobson again. I'm a little confused when we were talking about when you were talking about the letters or emails, you kept calling them, from the short-term rental stuff. Are you not counting handwritten letters? Is it just emails? You made it sounded to me like it was just emails. And I know a lot of people who I've encouraged to come to these meetings and speak about this stuff, and they don't want to speak publicly. So I encourage them to write a letter. And like, when I say write a letter, that's how I think about it, because I will never send you an email. Okay, I can't. I don't know how. I don't want to learn. But I know how to write something down and put it in the mail and send it in. And I wouldn't doubt that some of these people I've talked to feel and do the same type of things. I know a lot of people who don't care to use computers.
I can clarify that for you. Is anything that was sent to the township was put on to me in an email.
It was scanned.
It was scanned and put to me in an
Sent
email.
to you as an email.
Yes.
Okay,
That might have been confusing.
that was the confusing part,
Okay.
because you kept saying email, and I'm like, what about the letter?
Yeah, I get that. Sorry.
Okay. Now some other comments. Over and over and over again, I hear people say we got to look at other townships' ordinances. We got to look at, and like when I hear East Bay, that's a huge red flag to me. I don't know anybody in this community. Nobody that I hang around or converse with wants to be like East Bay Township. I know people who've moved out of East Bay Township to move here because we have a better township. They like things here better. They don't want to be so restricted. The reason we are like that is because we have made our own township and with our own vision, not take somebody else's. It's okay to take a peek at stuff, but we need to keep it ours, not somebody else's. This is our community. This isn't East Bay Township's community or Acme's community or Clearwater's community. This is Whitewater's community. This is where it needs to come from us. As anyone who's tried to navigate our ordinance knows, they are a mess, and for quite a while, maybe even still, they weren't even brought up to the state of Michigan's standards to match Michigan's law. And this fee schedule reconciliation problem is proof of that. Like, our board just struggled with that, okay? Because it wasn't clear in our zoning. So that the people who are working, who put this short-term rental ordinance together and tried to pass it forward as a starting point, that they may have missed something in an ordinance isn't like out of line. I mean, everybody who's worked on this stuff knows what a mess it is. I mean, there's stuff that's just way out of line in it. So, that needs to be taken into consideration. We have all struggled trying to find stuff in the zoning ordinance. And these people were part of the planning commission at times, different times. So that they missed or interpreted something different, because we all interpret stuff differently. Every single person interprets the same words differently. So some of that needs to be taken into consideration. This whole thing about the master plan information not being correct or accurate. We followed the rules. We followed the rules. We had the workshops. We put the information out there. We collected the data. We put the data in the master plan. Those were the rules. That's how we were supposed to do it. Okay? And when I said to the planning commission that many people in our community weren't represented throughout those open houses, nobody really seemed to care. I even mentioned that I thought there should be a note at the back of the book somewhere that said just that very same thing. Nobody cared. Okay? But now that there's opposition to the short-term rental thing, now we care about it. It was mentioned here tonight from this board that wasn't accurate, and there's people that weren't in this community that weren't counted. So what is it? Are we going to use the master plan when we feel like it and not use it when we don't feel like it? Needs to be used. If that's the rules, it needs to be used all the time, every time, not just when we feel like it. This ROWG thing, Kim just mentioned this, and I was going to mention it myself. It seems to me, from what I've learned about it, is it's very heavily, the people on it are mostly lakefront people. And that's one-sided. The whole community is not represented with that. There should be equal representation of the community. And I didn't mean lakefront people. I meant people against the STRs, okay? It's mostly people against the STRs that are on this committee. That's not fair to the community. It needs to be an even keel. There needs to be people for it and against it. And Rennie, Reen? I'm sorry, I mispronounced that earlier. I'm horrible with names,
okay.
and I can read horrible. I apologize. Okay. Your comment about the committee and being very diligent about telling people to leave their prejudice at the door and to be unbiased, very few people can do that. Very few people can do that. And your own comments prove that. I'm probably going to get this wrong because I paraphrased a little bit, but you said you're using communities from the lake, from water communities as examples because the waterfront people in our community are very important. But you didn't mention, you did.
No, I didn't say the waterfront people. I just want to clarify this. I said the
I said I was going to misquote it, okay? But the water, the people on the water or that part of the community is very important.
No, but the water itself,
Okay, well,
as stated in our master plan.
there's lots of other parts of our community that are important, and you didn't mention any of them.
So we're just going to keep this to comments, Mike, okay?
I'm trying to make a comment, and I'm being
All right.
Correct.
I'm just mentioning that.
Clarify, sorry,
Sorry, we can clarify at the next meeting.
we misquoted.
Yep.
It's very clear to many residents that the waterfront people seem to be more important to the new administration than the rest of the community. And I'm not the only person that thinks that. I talk to a lot of people in this community, and I hear it over and over and over. And this whole thing about Zoom was used for public comment for a long time in both the board and the planning commission. This new administration, for whatever disagreement there was, got rid of the competent person that was running it and could handle it. Okay, so it can be done. We just need the right person. That I couldn't do it. I agree. I don't even want to learn how to turn a computer on. So we need a competent person to be able to run it. It can be done. It's a very useful tool, and this community fought hard to get that, and now it's being taken away from us. That public comment thing is huge. We want to be heard. We want to have our input. I can't tell you how many meetings I sat in and there was nobody in the audience. We didn't have any public comment. Having public comment is great. And this whole tasting room ordinance thing, I maybe have this wrong, but, and this is a question. This isn't accusing anybody. Say, don't take this personal. But as I remember it, and maybe I got this wrong, as I remember it, Sadie brought in her own version or a sample of a version that she worked on for the tasting room thing, okay? And in my view, what I'm seeing happening in this room, she is being treated completely different from the way Rachel's being treated. And what they did is very similar to the same thing. I don't understand why one person is treated different than another person. It doesn't make any sense to me. That is not a community. We are a community. We're supposed to work together as a community. Please keep that in mind. Every person in this community is important. There's not a single one of you could get anywhere without the guy manning the gas station. We need him just as much as we need doctors and lawyers and the guys working on the roads and the guys building your houses. Everybody needs everybody else. That's what they call a community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. First of all, this meeting and STR topic means so much to me that I've slept about 6 hours in the last 60 some hours in order to make it here. Second, thank you so much for discussing the topic. I sense you are finally listening and reading, albeit interpreting it differently than me and reading less emails than I have reviewed, but it finally feels like STRs are getting attention, and that is the silver lining. I hope you are going to move an STR ordinance forward to present a fair and functional ordinance. I have hope, but not much evidence. Because trust is frayed, I ask you look at and put on your October agenda temporary STR permits, which would give you an inventory and/or a moratorium on punitive measures. It would build a lot of trust if you weren't trying to destroy families and businesses while you research and ponder an ordinance. It would also make it safe for all voices to be heard as you indicate you want. Thank you. I'm off to club bed with DJ Pillow.
Good night. Thank you. Is there anybody else? None seen? We'll move on from public comment. Is there anything else that the PC wants to discuss or comment about our next meeting?
I would like to move forward on a private road ordinance, and that affects the future development of our communities. And also, it's important because if, for example, we decide that a easement road, a private road, has to be more than, let's say, 25 feet wide, that it should be 35. And on the current easement, there is only 5 houses, but they say if you put a 6th house on, the road has to widen to the new private road ordinance. People are landscaping their yards and putting land features right up to the edge of their property. And they technically would have to move it back. And that's an expense to a homeowner unexpectedly.
Here's what I would like to suggest, is that I'll send you one of these sheets here.
Yes,
And let's start anything project you want to take on. Let's
I gotta
start
work with that.
by starting with this.
Okay,
And I think that by you gathering information and adding it to this list, and we can review it each month.
yeah.
We can move forward with taking a look at it.
Okay, so I won't be able to do it for next month. I know that, so, okay.
Okay. Guess I'll go around. Randy,
I'm out of gas.
you got a gas? Carl, you got any gas left?
No.
No. Okay. I don't either.
I just want to make it clear that the ROWG was not making any recommendations. It was just a statement that I was asked to share with you. What you do with it is up to you.
Katie?
I'm out of gas too, but I want to make it known too that I didn't come forward how Rachel came forward with the ordinance and pay for it to be submitted as an amendment. I made a suggestion that it be worked on. That was it. I don't make the schedule.
I would like to clarify that for Mike too. Those were two different, between the winery ordinance and the SDR ordinance, they were approached two different ways. One was an amendment that we had to follow protocol. We had to follow our ordinance and go through all the steps for. The other one is just a fact finding and trying to figure out what's going to work. So there were two totally separate venues of which way they came forward. One, we had to do certain things, and the other one we're still fact finding on. So that's that was the difference. Okay. All right, I would like to make a motion that we adjourn for the night. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by
Pelton in second.
Peltman. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Yes.